Good afternoon. Today we are going to be reading through chapter 13 of Dracula by Bram Stoker. But we're not just going to be reading the words. We're going to stop and talk about interesting vocabulary words or interesting phrases as we encounter them. So if you're an advanced learner of English, this is a wonderful way to improve your vocabulary, to improve your understanding of expressions. And we're doing this live, so if you're watching this live with me right now, then I encourage you to ask me questions. What does this mean? What does that mean? I don't understand. That's the whole purpose of doing this live, is to answer questions as we encounter them. If you don't ask questions, then I will just stop sometimes and explain words that I think could be pretty useful to you in your daily life. Recently, after we read the chapter, some people have been joining me on Discord. So we keep the video here on YouTube, and then we bring some people in from Discord, and we talk about some of the interesting words or phrases that we learned, and we practice using them in sentences with the focus on pronunciation and intonation. So, if you want to improve your accent, if you want to improve your intonation, your pronunciation, then don't leave once the chapter is finished, because we will practice some of that vocabulary and in great detail do pronunciation and intonation. All right, well, let's get started with chapter 13. I've got the wrong music on. Let me change to my scary Dracula music. Wait a second. All right. Okay, chapter 13. Dr. Seward's Diary. The funeral was arranged for the next succeeding day, so that Lucy and her mother might be buried together. I attended to all the ghastly formalities. We've had that word before, ghastly. That means horrible. And the urbane undertaker proved... Oh, Muhammad is here. Hello, Muhammad. How are you? Long time no see. I attended to all the ghastly formalities, and the urbane undertaker proved that his staff was afflicted or blessed. You know, I just want to define that word, urbane. Let's see. Urbane. Sometimes you hear that word. It's not a terribly common word, but I really wouldn't know how to explain it. Sophisticated, polished, worldly charm. Okay, so the undertaker, that's the person who, you know, when somebody dies, when they're the person who will handle or prepare the body for being buried. So they'll make the person look nice, they'll make them look alive, and then they'll dress them in nice clothes. That's the undertaker. And this is an urbane undertaker. He's sophisticated. He's cool. And the urbane undertaker proved that his staff was afflicted or blessed with something of his own obsequious suavity. Oh my goodness. Suave means smooth. So that means like acting in a way that, well, it just means smooth, but let's see. Well, first let's define suave and then obsequious. This is not a common word. Suave maybe, but not obsequious. Suave. Suave is literally the Latin word for smooth, but I'm just curious how it will say, how does this explain, or how is this used in English? Let's see. Confident, charming, something like that. So kind of like urbane. Now let's do obsequious. That's not a word that I think you have to worry too much about. Excessive, let's see. Excessively eager to please, obey, or flatter others. So that would be someone who we say kissing someone's butt. That means like always saying nice things to them because you hope to get something from them. Oh, that's a beautiful haircut you have. You're so smart. That's flattery. Always, you look so beautiful today. It's a little bit too much. And that's, you probably would say flattering. Flattering someone is giving them a lot of compliments. But you probably wouldn't use the word obsequious. So that's a very complicated phrase. A normal person wouldn't talk like that. With something of his own obsequious suavity. Never. Even the woman who performed the last offices for the dead remarked to me, in a confidential, brother professional way, when she had come out from her death chamber, "She makes a very beautiful corpse." A corpse is what you call a dead body. "She makes a very beautiful corpse, sir. It's quite a privilege to attend on her. It's not too much to say that she will do credit to our establishment." I noticed that Van Helsing never kept far away. This was possible from the disordered state of things in the household. There were no relatives at hand. At hand means nearby. There were no relatives at hand, and as Arthur had to be back the next day to attend his father's funeral, wow, everybody's dying, we were unable to notify anyone who should have been bidden. To bid means to make a request, so you wouldn't use that in contemporary English, but it would mean to notify anyone who should have been requested to come. But don't worry about trying to use that word because you wouldn't use that in contemporary English. Under the circumstances, Van Helsing and I took it upon ourselves. When you take something upon yourself, that means you accept the responsibility. You make it your own responsibility. Van Helsing and I took it upon ourselves. We made it our responsibility, etc. He insisted upon looking over Lucy's papers himself. I asked him why, for I feared that he, being a foreigner, might not be quite aware of the English legal requirements, so that might in ignorance make some unnecessary trouble. Mohammed says bid on stock prices is common. Well, bid, in that case, bid means making an offer. But that's how you would use bid in contemporary English, meaning making an offer. But especially in business. But to bid someone means to like beg someone or ask someone or request of someone. Okay, let's see. A very formal way of saying goodbye would be, I bid you farewell. But to me that would mean like I ask that you have a farewell, good farewell. But wait, let's see. I'm asking ChatGPT. Bid is somewhat old-fashioned and poetic. It's often found in formal writing or literature. As he left his journey, he bid his family farewell. He said goodbye. I guess it's still, even in that, it just means offer or give. So maybe bid is more like give or offer. I have it reversed. Oh boy. Okay, he insisted upon looking over Lucy's papers himself, and I asked him why, for I feared that he, being a foreigner, might not be quite aware of the English legal requirements, so might in ignorance make some unnecessary trouble. He answered me, I know, you forget that I'm a lawyer as well as a doctor, but this is not altogether for the law. You knew that when you avoided the coroner. The coroner is an official representative of the government. And when someone dies, the coroner will confirm that they're dead. So it's kind of like an official way to. So if somebody dies, you have to. Well, if they die in the hospital, maybe they have a coroner there. It's like a representative of the government that says this person died on this date. They definitely are dead. I verified that this is the person. It's like a way of officially letting the government know that someone died. It's usually, I think, a doctor, but I don't think it has to be a doctor. I have more than him to avoid. There may be papers more, such as this. As he spoke, he took from his pocketbook the memorandum which had been at Lucy's breast. This is the breast here, which she had torn up in her sleep. When you find anything of the solicitor, who is for the late Mrs. Westenra, when someone dies, you use the title late. So if somebody dies, you say the late John Smith. That's like a title you give to people who are dead. When you find anything of the solicitor who is for the late Mrs. Westenra, seal all her papers and write him tonight. For me, I watch here in the room, in Miss Lucy's old room, all night, and I myself search for what may be. It is not well that her very thoughts go into the hands of strangers. I went on with my part of the work, and in another half hour had found the name and address of Mrs. Westenra's solicitor. The solicitor is like a lawyer, and had written to him. All the poor lady's papers were in order. Explicit directions regarding the place of burial were given. I had hardly sealed the letter when, to my surprise, Van Helsing walked into the room saying, "Can I help you, friend John? I'm free. If I may, my service is to you." "Have you got what you looked for?" I asked, to which he replied, "I did not look for any specific thing. I only hoped to find, and find I have, all there was, only some letters and a few memoranda, and a diary new begun. But I have them here, and we shall for the present say nothing of them. I shall see that poor lad tomorrow." Lad is another word for boy. "I shall see that poor lad tomorrow evening, and with his sanction I shall use some." When he finished the work in hand, he said to me, "And now, friend John, I think we may to bed. We want to sleep, both you and I, and rest to recuperate." Recuperate is another way of saying to recover. Tomorrow we shall have to do, we shall have much to do for the night, but for the tonight, he's Dutch, so he's speaking English in a weird way and it's confusing me. But for the tonight, there's no need of alas. Before turning in, we went to look at poor Lucy. The undertaker had certainly done his work well, for the room was turned into a small chapel. Chapelle ardente. That's I don't know what that is. That's a chapel is a small church, but this must be the French word for chapel, which seems like the French word for hat. Chapelle. I'm just asking ChatGPT. Chapelle ardente. I don't know what that means. Let's see. French for burning chapel. It refers to a space often. A chapel is a small church. Often a chapel or room set up for a funeral vigil or memorial service where the deceased is laid in state. The name comes from the practice of illuminating the area with many That's like, remember we were talking about camera, the origin of the word camera? It reminds me of that. Because it's a little room and you fill it with the light of candles. The small Chapelle ardente. There was a wilderness of beautiful white flowers, and death was made a little repulsive, as little repulsive as might be. So repulsive means disgusting. And the way that they arranged the body in this small room with the candles and beautiful flowers, it made death as least disgusting as possible. The end of the winding sheet was laid over the face. When the professor bent over and turned it back gently, we both started at the beauty before us. We've had that word start many times. It doesn't mean begin, it means to be surprised and jump a little bit when you're surprised. So they pulled the sheet back to see her face, and they were so surprised at how beautiful she was. When the professor bent over and turned it gently back, we both started at the beauty before us. The tall wax candles showing a sufficient light to note it well. All Lucy's loveliness had come back to her in death, and the hours that had passed, instead of leaving traces of decay's effacing fingers, had but restored the beauty of life, till positively I could not believe my eyes that I was looking at a corpse. Remember, the word corpse means dead body. The professor looked sternly grave. Stern means serious. So does grave, so that's sort of a repetition of two words. He had not loved her as I had, and there was no need for tears in his eyes, and he said to me, "Remain till I return." And I left the room. He came back with a handful of wild garlic from the box waiting in the hall, but which had not been opened, and placed the flowers amongst the others, on and around the bed. And then he took from his neck, inside his collar, a little gold crucifix, and placed it over the mouth. He restored the sheet to its place, and we came away. I was undressing in my own room when, with a premonitory tap, I don't know what that word means, premonitory. Serves as a warning, indicates something will happen. So somebody was tapping on the door, and somehow that made him think something was about to happen. Maybe something bad. With a premonitory tap at the door, he entered. Or maybe just, I think what it means, though, is, you tap on someone's door, you knock on someone's door, and then normally you wait for them to open it. But if you're very familiar with the person, you might just knock on their door and then open their door. So it's actually not, it's me, open the door. And then he opens the door because they're very familiar with each other. So it's just a warning. Someone's about to open the door. That's what premonitory means here. Tomorrow, I want you to bring me, before night, a set of post-mortem knives. Mort, that word mort, means dead, and post means after. So post-mortem means after death. And for a doctor might have post-mortem knives. These would be knives to open the body after it's dead to look inside. Must we make an autopsy? An autopsy is when a doctor examines a dead body. Must we make an autopsy, I asked. Yes and no. I want to operate, but not what you think. Let me tell you now, but not a word to another. I want to cut off her head and take out her heart. Ah, you, a surgeon, and so shocked, you, whom I have seen with no tremble of hand or heart, do operations of life and death that make the rest, shudder. Oh, but I must not forget, my dear friend John, that you loved her, and I have not forgotten it. For, uh, for it is I that shall operate, and you must not help. I would like to do it tonight, but for Arthur I must not. He will be free after his father's funeral tomorrow, and he will want to see her, to see it. Then, when she is coffined, ready for the next day, you and I shall come when all asleep. We shall unscrew the coffin lid, and shall do our operation, and then replace all, so that none know, save we alone. But why do it at all? The girl is dead. Why mutilate her poor body without need? And if there is no necessity for a post-mortem, and nothing to gain by it, no good to her, to us, to science, to human knowledge, why do it? Without such, it is monstrous. For answer, he put his hand on my shoulder and said with infinite tenderness, "Friend John, I pity your poor bleeding heart." And said with infinite tenderness, oh, I just read that. Well, I have to organize something here. I'm trying to do two things at once. All right, let me bring this back up. Friend John, I pity your poor bleeding heart, and I love you the more because it does so bleed. If I could, when you say that someone has a bleeding heart, that means that they're very sensitive, that they care very much about other people, maybe too much about other people. So it doesn't really mean blood coming from the heart. Bleeding heart is kind of, in a way, it's kind of an insult. It means you're too sensitive. You care too much about other people's feelings and not enough about your own. I pity your poor bleeding heart, and I love you the more because it does so bleed. So he's saying, I feel bad for you because you're such a sensitive person, and I love you very much because you're so sensitive. I would take on myself the burden that you do bear. But there are things that you know not, but that you shall know, and bless me for knowing, though they are not pleasant things. John, my child, you have been my friend for many years, and yet did you ever know me to do any without good cause? I may err. Err is a verb that means to make mistakes, but it's not very common in contemporary English. So I wouldn't try to memorize that or try to use it. You could, and then people will think you're just very fancy. but you probably wouldn't use it in contemporary English very much. I may err, I may make mistakes, I am but man, but I believe in all I do. Was it not for these causes that you sent for me when the great trouble came? Yes. Were you not amazed, nay, horrified, when I would not let Arthur kiss his love, though she was dying, and snatched him away? Snatch means grab and take by force very quickly, and snatched him away. By all my strength, yes. And yet you saw how she thanked me, with her so beautiful dying eyes, her voice, too, so weak, and she kissed my rough old hand and blessed me? Yes. And did you not hear me swear, promise to her, that so she close her eyes grateful? Yes. PP says, hello from 2 a.m. Oh my goodness, PP, you're up very late tonight. And I'm reading a scary story. I hope you don't see any ghosts in the middle of the night. Well, I have good reason now for all I want to do. You have for many years trust me. You have believed me weeks past. When there be things so strange that you might have well doubt, believe me yet a little, friend John. If you trust me not, then I must tell you what I think, and that is perhaps not well. And if I work, as work I shall, no matter trust, no matter trust or no trust, without my friend trust in me, I work with heavy heart, and feel oh so lonely. To have a heavy heart means to feel sad. So he's saying, if you really want me to tell you what's happening, I will. But I don't think that's a good idea right now. I would prefer it, we're such good friends, I would prefer it if you would just trust me. But even if you don't trust me, I have to do this. And if I feel like you don't trust me, I'm going to have to do it, and I'll be much sadder because of that. So don't ask me to tell you what's really happening. But don't worry if you don't understand him, because he's Dutch and he's speaking English in a very strange way. I work with heavy heart and feel oh so lonely when I want all help and courage that may be. He paused a moment and then went on solemnly. Solemnly means in a very serious way. Friend John, there are strange and terrible days before us. Let us not be two, but one, that so we work to a good end. Will you not have faith in me? I took his hand, and I promised him. I held my door open as he went away, and watched him go to his room and close the door. As I stood without moving, I saw one of the maids pass silently along the passage. She had her back to me. Devotion is so rare. Oh wait, I skipped a line here. So did not see me go into the room where Lucy lay. The sight touched me. Devotion is so rare. And we're so grateful to those who show it unasked to those we love. Here was a poor girl, putting aside the terrors which she naturally had of death, to go watch alone by the bier of the mistress whom she loved, so that the poor clay might not be lonely till laid to eternal rest. I don't know what that word bier means. Let me see. I've never seen that before. A stand or platform on which a coffin or corpse is placed. So that, remember the corpse that's the name for a dead body. And so the table that they use to show the dead body is called the bier. Let's see, how is it pronounced? What does it say? Probably beer, but let's see. Yeah, beer. In Islamic countries, do they bury bodies or do they burn them? I never thought about, I don't think I've ever seen they call that a graveyard where you put the dead bodies, but I don't think I've ever heard of a Muslim graveyard. So do they burn the bodies? Somebody let me know. Let's see. Bury. Oh, they bury them? Okay. I've lost my place. Let me find my place again. Okay. I must have slept long and soundly, for it was broad daylight when Van Helsing asked me by coming into my room. He came over to my bedside and said, "You need not trouble about the knives. We shall not do it." Why not? I asked, for his solemnity of the night before had greatly impressed me. Because, he said sternly, it's too late or too early. See. Here he held up the little golden crucifix. This was stolen in the night. How stolen? I asked in wonder, since you have it now. Because I get it back from the worthless wretch. Wretch is like a horrible person. I get it back from the worthless. PP says, what does mistress mean? We have the word master. Right, you know the word master, I'm sure. And mistress is the female version of master. So in this case, I mean, I don't remember, when did they say mistress? Was that when they were talking about the maid? So in this case, you could think of it like meaning boss, right? Because the maid, the maid is just an employee, but she went into the room where her mistress was. Mistress is like female master. Kind of means boss, though. And Jonathan felt very... Was it Jonathan? It's not Jonathan. It's somebody else. I forget his name. But he felt very touched, very emotional to see that the servant girl actually, without anybody asking, just went there to spend time with her. He thought, oh, they had a nice relationship. PP says a powerful woman. No, it just means like maybe like a boss, the person in charge of, like, in charge of the house. So that would be like the, but it's really about like more about employee-employer relationship, and you wouldn't use it in modern English. So maybe 100 years ago, people would say mistress. So imagine you knock on a door and the maid opens the door and you say, "Can I talk to your mistress?" But you wouldn't do that in modern English. Don't use that word in modern English. Mohammed says don't search for this word because it's used in a bad way. Yeah, it's only used in very weird, strange ways now. So yeah, don't look for that. But it's not used. It's not used for any reason, any good reason now. It was maybe 100 years ago, but not anymore. So don't think about using it. But I think that Mrs. MRS. That's the wait. Let's see. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. But I think that let's see. I'm pretty sure Mrs. is mistress. Yeah. So that prefix MRS for Mrs., that's really just an abbreviation for mistress. Like the female master of the house, the mother, the wife. Because I get it back from the worthless wretch who stole it, from the woman who robbed the dead and the living. Her punishment will surely come, but not through me. She know not altogether what she did, and thus unknowing she only stole, and now we must wait. He went away on that word, leaving me with a new mystery to think of, a new puzzle to grapple with. Grappling is like fight, a new puzzle to fight with, to struggle with. PP says the housekeeper. No, the housekeeper is still under the mistress. The mistress is like the mother or the wife of the house, the most important woman in the house, and the housekeeper is an employee. So a housekeeper is important, but her boss is the mistress. But this is like old-fashioned. People don't talk or think like that anymore. So it doesn't really matter. It only matters because of this book. But in real life, it wouldn't really apply to anything. The forenoon was a dreary time, but at noon the solicitor came, Mr. Markand of Holman Sons Markand and Litterdale. He was very genial. We've had that word genial before. That means friendly, kind, likable. He was very genial and very appreciative of what we had done, and took off of our hands all cares as to details. During lunch he told us that Mrs. Westenra had for some time expected sudden death from her heart, and had put her affairs in absolute order. He informed us that, with the exception of certain entailed property of Lucy's father, which now, in default of direct issue, went back to the distant branch of the family, the whole estate, real and personal, was left absolutely to Arthur Holmwood. When he had told us so much, he went on. Frankly, we did our best to present such a testamentary disposition, and pointed out certain contingencies that might leave her daughter either penniless or not so free as she should be to act regarding a matrimonial alliance. Contingencies are like alternate situations. And penniless, that's kind of an interesting word. I don't know if you know what a penny is, but a penny is 1 cent. It's like the smallest amount of money you could have. It's just, we call that 1 penny. And I guess even in the, the UK now has a more modern currency, but like 120 years ago, they used an older form of currency, which is very confusing. There are all different kinds of denominations, shillings and pence and I don't know, pounds and crowns and all kinds of things. It's very confusing. And at some point they modernized it and standardized it. But anyway, penniless means absolutely no money, having no money whatsoever, being completely poor. Muhammad says penny in the UK. I don't even know if they use the word penny in the UK. They use it in the US still, but I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. They might. Yes, they do. They still call them pennies. Or usually only if it's singular, because if it's plural, then they call them pence. In the North America, we call them cents, but still one of the smallest is called penny. Indeed, we pressed. Wait, I'm just going to read this again. Frankly, we did our best to prevent such a testamentary disposition and pointed out certain contingencies. Okay, this is going to be annoying because this is a lawyer talking. And I don't know about in Arabic, but the way lawyers talk is very hard to understand. They have their own language, which can be pretty annoying and difficult to understand. And this guy talks like a lawyer. And pointed out certain contingencies that might leave her daughter either penniless or not so free as she would be to act regarding the matrimonial alliance. Indeed, we pressed the matter so far that we almost came into collision, for she asked us if we were or were not prepared to carry out her wishes. Of course, we had then no alternative but to accept. We were right in principle, and 99 times out of 100 we should have proved by the logic of events the accuracy of our judgment. Oh my, I don't really understand what he's saying there either. Should we try to translate it? Let's see. We did our best to prevent such. Wait, let's read the paragraph before again. He informed us that with the exception of a certain entailed property of Lucy's father, which now, in default of direct issue, went back to a distant branch of the family. The whole estate, real and personal, was left absolutely to Arthur Holmwood. I think that's her husband now. When he had told us so much, he went on. I'm a little bit confused. He informed us that, with the exception of... Okay, so there's one property that, because the mother and the daughter died, so one part of the property went to a distant family member, but the rest of the money is going to, or the rest of the estate, the rest of the property is going to Lucy's husband. They just got married. Frankly, we did our best to prevent such a testamentary disposition. A testament, that's the document that says, I'll give my house to John, give my money to Mary, give my car to Eric, and pointed out that certain contingencies might leave her daughter either penniless or not. Well, they're talking about her daughter, but her daughter's dead too, so who cares? I don't know. Let's not pick this apart. It's kind of a waste of time. Let's see. Maybe it will make more sense in the next paragraph. Frankly, however, I must admit that PP says after he dies, okay, somebody... It's very confusing because a lot of people have just died. But when somebody dies... They leave something called the last will. That's the short expression, the last will. But the full title is the last will and testament. Will, you know the word will. Will means what you want. Okay, so your last will, your last wishes, your last desire. That's what will means, your last will. And testament, that means like you had witnesses. There were witnesses who signed it. There were witnesses who say, yes, he really did say this. So that's an official document. The testament, or the last will and testament, is an official document that says, this is what I want people to do with my property when I die. Muhammad says, do they use the Bible for... inheritance distribution? There might, I think, as far as I know, I mean, there might be in the Old Testament, there might be rules about how to divide the property of your parents. I'm not sure. It seems like there would be very, very detailed rules about who would get what. But I don't think in the New Testament there is. I don't think that exists in the New Testament, the Christian part of the Bible. So I doubt it. Mostly what they would do is they would use the Bible to make a promise, like, okay, this is really John and this is really Mary, and we really did watch him sign it. He really did say that. Here, give me the Bible. Yes, I promise to God that this is true. They might use the Bible in that way. But I don't think that they would use the biblical laws of the Old Testament. Oh, by the way, you know, the Bible is divided into two, I wouldn't call them books, two sections. And they're called the Old Testament. You have that word testament again. Testament just means like witnessing something, like being a witness to something and promising that it's true. So you have the Old Testament and then you have the New Testament. It's like the letters... Wait, did they use the Bible for inheritance distribution? It's like the letter to his sons after he dies. Well, it's not to his sons, though. It's between him and a legal professional, like a lawyer. So you go to a lawyer, and the lawyer makes sure that it's verified in a very specific way so that nobody can argue, no, he didn't say that. That's not what he meant. So the lawyer writes a very clear contract, and the lawyer has witnesses, and it's signed. So there's no way that you could challenge it. So it's not to his sons. It's between him and the lawyer. And then when he dies, all the family comes to the lawyer, and the lawyer will read the document and say, "Okay, I'm going to give this to this person, this to this person, this to this person." Muhammad says we use the Quran for this purpose. Do you mean you use the Quran for it tells you what to do with the property? Or that, because I thought you couldn't do that with the Quran. You're not supposed to make promises on it. I thought that you weren't supposed to. Maybe I'm wrong. And the son have doubled. Oh, so that's the rule. So the sons get twice as much as the daughters. Well, at least in, I don't know about other places, but in the English speaking world, I think things have changed because in the 19th century and before, at least in England, there was a very specific rule about who receives what. At least in the aristocracy, so everything went to the oldest son. So when the father dies, all of the property and everything goes to the oldest son, and then it would be up to the son to, if there was enough money, to give some to the younger brothers, or some to the girls. It was their responsibility to take care of everybody. So the oldest son was always the most important person. I don't know if that's the same in Islam or in Egypt, but traditionally that's how things were done. At least with people who had a lot of money. With people who didn't, I don't know what they did. Maybe that's where wills come from. I don't know. But if you read Charles Dickens or things, that a lot of those horrible stories of tragedies happen because, you know, the family member who's responsible to take care of everybody else decides to be greedy and not take care of everyone. So when that happens, people become poor and desperate, and then one person has a lot of money. So at some point, I guess they changed that. I think probably in the, who knows, like in the 1860s or 1870s, sometime around there, I think they changed that. So that wasn't the law anymore. Frankly, however, I must admit that in this case, any other form of disposition would have rendered impossible the carrying out of her wishes, for by her predecessing her daughter, the latter would have come into possession of the property, and even had she only survived by her mother by 5 minutes, her property would, in the case there were no will, and a will was a practical impossibility in such a case, have been treated at her decease as under intestacy, in which case Lord Godalming, though so dear a friend, would have no claim in the world, and the inheritors, being remote, would not likely to abandon their just rights for sentimental reasons regarding the entire stranger. I assure you, my dear sirs, I am rejoiced at the result. Perfectly rejoiced. So the lawyer's explaining. Well, I don't know. It's really hard to explain. It's confusing, and I don't think we should spend too much time on it. Is it true if a man broke up with it? PP is saying, is it true if a man broke up with his wife? Wait, let's see. 50% of his money go to his wife. We have this all the time. Ex-wife. Wait. So yes, that's true. That I think it seems to. Well, I should keep my mouth shut. I'll get in trouble. But it seems to me that the legal system, at least in the U.S. or probably in the U.K. too, really favors the woman, and the man doesn't have very many rights, which I think is why a lot of people don't want to get married anymore, because, you know, after a year or two, the woman can say, oh, you know, I changed my mind, I want a divorce, and take half of everything. So I think people have just said, I don't want to get married because I'll suffer for the rest of my life for that reason. And they can't see their kids. I don't know. It's pretty horrible. But so that is true. That is true. And sometimes I think it could be pretty unfair. Although some people would disagree with that. He was a good fellow, but his rejoicing at one little part in which he was officially interested of so great a tragedy was an object lesson in the limitations of sympathetic understanding. And then Muhammad says, we have this all the time. What, that the husband, the wife takes 50% and gets a divorce? Oh, Muhammad says, and they're spreading that crap to our countries. Yeah, well, we live in a crazy world. Okay, he did not remain long, but said he would look in. He would look in later in the day and see Lord Godalming. His coming, however, had been a certain comfort to us, since it assured us that we should not have to dread hostile criticism as to any of our acts. Arthur was expected at 5 o'clock, so a little before that time we visited the death chamber. It was so, in very truth, for now both mother and daughter lay in it. The undertaker, true to his craft, had made the best display he could of his goods, and there was a mortuary air about the place that lowered our spirits at once. So, a mortuary is a room where you keep dead bodies. So, for example, every hospital has a mortuary, and that's the place where they keep the dead bodies. And they went into the death chamber, the little room where the dead body was, and it felt like a mortuary. It felt like there were dead bodies everywhere. Van Helsing ordered the former arrangement to be adhered to, explaining, as Lord Godalming was coming very soon, it would be less harrowing to his feelings to see all that was left of his fiancée quite alone. The undertaker seemed shocked at his own stupidity, and exerted himself to restore things to the condition in which we left them the night before, so that when Arthur came, such shocks to his feelings as we could avoid were saved. Poor fellow! He looked desperately sad and broken. Even his stalwart manhood. Remember, stalwart, we've had that word several times, and I just don't feel comfortable defining it by myself yet. So let's remind ourselves what the word stalwart means. It's common in books, but it's not really a word that you would use in conversation. Strong, reliable, loyal. Poor fellow. He looked so desperately sad and broken. Even his stalwart manhood seemed to have shrunk somewhat under the strain of his much tried emotions. He had, I knew, at such a time, been very genuinely and devotedly attached to his father, and to lose him, and at such a time, was a bitter blow to him. So his father died, and then his wife died. Or his fiancée died. Somebody just got married. I guess it wasn't her. I'm so confused. Townhouse. This word I read in a story, and I couldn't translate it. Townhouse. I'll just show you some pictures. I think that's probably the best way to see it. I think it's called a townhouse usually because it's not something that you would see really in the country. And it's when the houses are built together like this. Maybe something a little bit more like here. This looks like New York, and maybe you've seen this looks like it could be New York. It might be a different city, but it's when there are no sides to the house. It's just one continuous building, and then each person lives in a section. That's a townhouse. Are you familiar with the Second Sex Book? What is that? I don't. Is that the name of the book? Second Sex Book? No, I'm not familiar with that. He had, I knew, been very genuinely and devotedly attached to his father, and to lose him at such a time was a bitter blow to him. So a blow is a hit, and bitter means it tastes bad. It doesn't taste good. PP says a house next to a house. Well, it's not just next to. Next to, they could be separate. It's a house attached to another house. So there's no side. In the UK, they call them terraced houses. Muhammad says, yes, they say it's the most important book in the 20th century, but I don't know why. The second... I'm just going to look at it really quick. Let's see. I've never heard of it. The Second Sex Book. What is that? French, 1949. Challenges the long-held notion that gender differences are based... I think only certain people would tell you that that's the most important book ever written. The most important book of the 20th century. I don't think that's right. At all. Ever. Poor fellow, he looked so desperately sad and broken. Even his stalwart manhood seemed to have shrunk somewhat under the strain of his much-tried emotions. He had, I knew, been very genuinely and devotedly attached to his father, and to lose him at such a time was a bitter blow to him. With me he was warm as ever, and to Van Helsing he was sweetly courteous. Courteous means polite. Maybe we'll add that to our list. But I could not help seeing that there was some constraint with him. The professor noticed it too, and motioned me to bring him upstairs, so I did, and left him at the door of the room, as I felt he would like to be quite alone with her. But he took my arm and led me in, and saying huskily, "You loved her too, old fellow." She told me all about it, and there was no friend had a closer place in her heart than you. I don't know how to thank you for all you have done for her. I can't think yet. Here, he suddenly broke down. So here, breaking down means like losing control of your emotions. So probably he started crying. Here he suddenly broke down and threw his arms around my shoulders and laid his head on my breast, crying, "Oh, Jack, Jack, what shall I do? The whole of life seems to have gone from me all at once, and there's nothing in the wide world for me to live for." I comforted him. That means, probably he was doing this. That's comforting someone. "Oh, don't cry, it's okay." That's comforting someone. I comforted him as well as I could. In such cases, men do not need much expression. A grip of the hand, the tightening of an arm over the shoulder, a sob in unison. Unison means you do it together, and sob is like a cry. So, crying together. A sob in unison. A grip of the hand, the tightening of an arm over the shoulder, a sob in unison are expressions of sympathy dear to a man's heart. I stood still and silent till his sobs died away, and then I said softly to him, "Come and look at her." Together we moved over to the bed, and I lifted the lawn from her face. God, how beautiful she was! Every hour seemed to be enhancing her loveliness. It frightened and amazed me somewhat, And as for Arthur, he fell to trembling, and finally was shaken with doubt, as with Og. I don't know what Ag or Og is. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Let's see. Og. Mohammed says unison is unity now. Okay, unity means coming together. Well, the word un, that's the Latin word for one. Okay, so unity means becoming one, coming together, and unison means doing something together. So having unity means everybody comes together and acts like one, but in unison means everybody does one thing together. So in this case, they were crying in unison. They were crying together at the same time. Maybe you could think of unison as at the same time. And unity means one group, one unit. There's the word again, unit, unity. Og is a noun that historically refers to a fever accompanied by chills, shivers, and sweating. But I don't think that's something that you would say in contemporary English. I've never, and it even says that it's how did they call it? It says historically, meaning probably they don't use it anymore. It's rarely used in modern medical terminology. When PP is saying, well, what about united and union? When you united is the past participle form of unite. Unite is a verb that means come together. So let's unite. And tonight we are united and reading a book. That means we're all together and reading a book. When you use the past participle as an adjective, it means this thing happened. So, if you say you have break, which is a verb, and then you have broken, which is the past participle. If you say broken computer, that means break happened to the computer. So you can take the past participle of a verb and use it as an adjective that means this action happened to that. So if you say interested person, that means interest happened to the person. The person became interested. Broken computer, the computer became interested. Or the computer became broken. United people, the people became one. They became united. So when you use the past participle as an adjective, it means this thing happened, this thing became to the other thing. And union is a noun which describes things that have agreed to come together. So if you talk about a workers' union, that's a group of people who have agreed to come together and act like one. But it's a noun. Muhammad says like Manchester United football team. Well, yeah, I don't know why they call it that, but I guess you could imagine that they have agreed to come together and play football. So they all said, yeah, we like football. So they came together and made one group. So they became united in order to play football. They became one group in order to play football. It frightened and amazed me somewhat, and as for Arthur, he fell to trembling, and finally was shaken with doubt, as with ague or ag. At last, after a long pause, he said to me in a faint whisper, "Jack, is she really dead?" I assured him sadly that it was so, and went on to suggest, for I felt that such a horrible doubt should not have life for a moment longer than I could help, that it often happened that after death faces become softened and even resolved into their youthful beauty, and that this was especially so when death had been preceded by any acute or prolonged suffering. I seemed to quite do away with any doubt, and after kneeling beside the couch for a while and looking at her lovingly and long, he turned aside. I told him that must be goodbye, as the coffin had to be prepared. So he went back and took her dead hand in his, and he kissed it, and bent over and kissed her forehead. He came away, fondly looking back. Fondly means like with a good feeling. Looking back, or with love. Looking back over his shoulder at her as he came. I left him in the drawing room and told Van Helsing that he had said goodbye. So the latter went to the kitchen to tell the undertaker's men to proceed with the preparations and to screw up the coffin. You know, a screw is, just in case you don't know what a screw is. Because we've had that word a couple of times today. This is a screw. So if you screw something up, it means you're attaching the screws. So the coffin, that's the box where you put the dead body. And now that her fiancé has seen her, they're closing the coffin and they're screwing up, they're closing the coffin forever with the screws. Earlier, they unscrewed it. To unscrew something means to remove the screw. Let's see, I lost my place. I forgot where I was. When he came out, let's see. I'll start from this paragraph. Muhammad says, "Is screw up can be used to in a business context?" What do you mean by a business context? Are you thinking of a specific situation? Can you give me an example? Because screw up is a phrasal verb, but I'm not sure if it's what you're looking for. I left him in the drawing room and told Van Helsing that he had said goodbye, so the latter went to the kitchen to tell the undertaker's men to proceed with the preparations and to screw up the coffin. And when he came out of the room again, I told him of Arthur's question, and he replied, "I'm not surprised. Just now I doubted for a moment myself." We all dined together, and I could see that poor Art was trying to make the best of things. Van Helsing had been silent all dinner time, but when we had lit our cigars, he said, "Lord." But Arthur interrupted him. No, not that, for God's sake. Not yet, at any rate. Forgive me, sir. I did not mean to speak offensively. It is only because my loss is so recent. I don't understand what just happened. Wait, let me read that again. We all dined together, and I could see that poor Art was trying to make the best of things. Van Helsing had been silent all dinner time, but when we had lit our cigars, he said, "Lord." But Arthur interrupted him. Maybe he was starting to say a prayer? I don't know. Muhammad says it's a very popular TV series, The Office. Oh, okay. Well, I'm familiar with that TV series. Are you saying that you have heard them use that term before? And then you're just wondering why were they using it in that context and in business? Is that what you're asking? Oh, Pachu's here. Hello, Pachu. It's pretty early. Good morning, Pachu. It's very early for Pachu. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. Screw up used many times, yes. Okay, well, I'll explain to you why. Uh, in English, we don't really like to say bad words in public or many times. It depends. I mean, it depends on the person, the personality. I don't really say them too much, but we always have substitute words for bad words or words that you shouldn't say. I think we've talked about that a little bit. Like instead of saying damn it, you can say darn it. And if you say that darn instead of damn, that's more acceptable. You can say that in front of anyone. It doesn't matter. Or instead of saying God damn it, you can say gosh darn it, and that way you're not saying anything offensive. Or even just saying the word God. I mean, that's not a bad word, but you shouldn't go around. You shouldn't go around saying the word God all the time, because that's kind of making the word less special. So it sounds a little bit offensive or angry, if you say, oh God, that's not very nice. So people say gosh instead. Or it's really strong to say, oh Jesus. Nice people wouldn't say that. It's not polite. So instead, I'm sure you've heard this, people say gee. They just say gee. It's like a substitution word. And the word screw is a substitution word for, I'm not going to say it, I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but for the F word. If you think about, I'll just do a little bit of sign language for you. Wait, let me find the picture of the screw again. Whoops. I keep opening the wrong windows. Okay, so this is a screw, and so that could be a substitution. If you think about what a screw does, it's this, which is the F word, and so we always use that instead of F. Like instead of F you, we say screw you. And if you F up is making a big mistake. Making an extremely stupid big mistake. Oh no, I effed up. Oh no, I screwed up. You can always use the word screw instead of the other word. Pachu, F words, N words. PP says, what is a good show that you could recommend for me to watch and improve my English besides your channel? I don't watch TV anymore. I hate TV now. I haven't watched anything, and maybe I don't watch anything it has to be at least 15 or 20 years old before I'll watch it. I think that everything they make now is stupid. Maybe I'm just old, but I don't care. I don't know anything about movies or TV that they make now, and I don't want to know. Let's see. Muhammad says, I thought it was a polite phrasal verb. Well, it's nicer than... You can say it. You can say it in front of anyone. Screw up. Don't say screw you. But you can use it whenever you want. It wouldn't be super offensive. But it's definitely not nice. But like screw up, that's perfectly acceptable. That's perfectly fine. Oh no, I screwed up. It's very light. It doesn't mean anything bad or offensive. Now, if you used F, I effed up, that would be very different. Okay, let's see. We all dined together, and I could see that poor Art was trying to make the best of things. Van Helsing had been silent all dinner time, but when we had lit our cigars, he said, Lord, so... I don't know, that would be a weird time to say a prayer. I don't know why he's saying, no, don't do that. But let's see. Maybe it will make more sense in a minute. But Arthur interrupted him. No, that, for God's sakes, not yet, at any rate. Forgive me, sir. I did not mean to speak offensively. It was only because my loss is so recent. I don't understand what's happening in that scene. Okay. The professor answered very sweetly. I only used that name because I was in doubt. I must not call you Mr. Oh, maybe he is a lord. Maybe he's being very formal and he's calling him Lord. I don't remember his name. He's using the title and he's saying, no, don't use. Oh, I know what it is. This is okay. I didn't really understand what the lawyer was talking about, but I think now now that the father has died, this man has inherited the title Lord. And so now when they're talking to him, it would be very disrespectful not to call him Lord. But he's saying, no, don't do that. Not yet. I'm not ready for this. Now I get it. The professor answered very sweetly. I only used that name because I was in doubt. I must not call you Mr., and I have grown to love you. Yes, my dear boy, to love you as Arthur. Arthur held out his hand and took the old man's warmly. Call me what you will, he said. I hope I may always have the title of a friend. And let me say that I'm at a loss for words to thank you for your goodness to my poor dear. He paused a moment and went on. I know that she understood your goodness even better than I do, and if I was rude or in any way wanting that time you acted so, at that time you acted so, you remember? The professor nodded. You must forgive me. There are two types of Lord. There's one Lord which means God, so that's the Lord. But you can say Lord. I mean, when you're talking to God, you say, "Oh Lord," so that's okay. But also, that's a title. That's a pretty high title in the British aristocracy. You have the king, and then you have a duchess. You have the king and princes and princesses and dukes and duchesses, and somewhere in the middle is the title Lord. Muhammad says, can you zoom? Okay, that should be better, right? All right. He answered with grave kindness, I know it was hard for you to quite trust me then, for to trust such violence needs to understand, and I take it that you cannot trust me now, for you do not yet understand, and there may be more times when I shall want you to trust when you cannot, and may not, and must not understand. But the time will come when your trust shall be whole and complete in me, and when you shall understand as though the sunlight himself shone through, then you shall bless me from first to last, for your own sake, and for the sake of others, and for her dear sake, to whom I swore to protect. And indeed, sir, said Arthur warmly, I shall always trust you. I know and believe you have a very noble heart, and you're Jack's friend. So noble is something that you could admire, something that you could respect. You have a very noble heart. You have a very respectable heart, a heart I can admire. You are Jack's friend, and you were hers, and you shall do what you like. The professor cleared his throat. Clearing your throat is... Maybe you would do that if you're about to cry. That's clearing your throat. The professor cleared his throat a couple of times, as though about to speak, and finally said, May I ask you something now? Certainly. PP says, indeed means very... You know, it could mean a lot of things. Let's just take a minute to to look at the things that it means. It's like a way of confirming. It's like if you say something to me like, it's hot today, I might say, indeed. That kind of means, yes, I agree with you. How is it used? But it can mean, let's look at the many different ways you could use it. But where was it? How did they use it here? I don't remember. Okay. So the Van Helsing, they're talking about, oh, don't call me Lord. Don't give me that title. First of all, I'm not ready to use it. But also, I want you to think the only title I want you to use with me is friend. And then they talk about, he says, look at all the things that we did together, all the ways that we suffered together. We're just friends. And then Van Helsing is agreeing. He's saying, yes, that's true, that's true. Indeed, indeed. So he's just agreeing with him. So let's see. Indeed emphasizes a statement or adds further information. So let's see. Emphasizing agreement or confirmation. That's how we're using it. Yes, yes, I agree. Indeed, you're right. Strengthening a statement. Let's see how that is. She is indeed the best player. So that could be like, I really think so. Maybe that's when you say PP, when you say indeed means really, maybe that's the way you're thinking of it. Like, she really is the best tennis player. She is indeed the best tennis player. And then it says for introducing further information to add more details. Let's see. The meal was delicious. Indeed, it was the best I ever had. So to add more information, you could use indeed. Like, I'm PP, you're in Saudi Arabia. I'm kind of fascinated by this new project that they're building, Neom City. And, you could say a lot of things about that. Like, the line is the longest building in Saudi Arabia. Then you could add extra. Indeed, it's the longest in the world. Although I don't think they've made it yet. But I'm anxious to see what it's going to look like. Let's see. I think that's about expressing surprise. So also it's surprise. Like, I got a new job. Indeed. So like, really? That could be that really also. Okay. Let's get back to the book. The professor cleared his throat a couple of times, as though about to speak, and finally said, "May I ask you something now?" "Certainly." "You know that Mrs. Westenra left you all her property?" "No, poor dear. I never thought of it. As it is all yours, you have the right to deal with it as you will. I want you to give me permission to read all Miss Lucy's papers and letters. Believe me, it's no idle curiosity. I have a motive of which, be sure, she would have approved. I have them all here. I took them before we knew that all was yours, so that no strange hand might touch them, no strange eye might look through words into her soul. I shall keep them, if I may. Even you may not see them yet, but I shall keep them safe. No word shall be lost. In good time, I shall give them back to you. It's a hard thing that I ask, but you will do it. Will you not? For Lucy's sake?" Now that's an interesting phrase, for someone's sake. That means think of that other person. Do it for that other person. So, the professor is asking for something very personal. Can I look through her letters? Can I read her personal information? I know you don't want me to do it, but this will help. Think of her. For her sake, let's do it. Pachi says most people watch these. You can watch also TV shows like Friends, Modern Family, Breaking Bad, Sherlock Holmes, Game Theory. Do you know? Now you remind me, Sherlock. There's a Sherlock Holmes series from the BBC from, I think it's about around 1980 or 1983. I really love that series. Wait, let me see if I can find a link to one of them. I've watched that. Oh, that's usually on YouTube, actually. That's one of my favorites. Somebody said, can you do, I don't know, maybe that was Muhammad. I'm not sure, but somebody said, can you do Sherlock Holmes next? I would like to do Sherlock Holmes. Oh yeah, actually this is the...
Whether you have a thesis, capstone, a research paper...
Here, I'll send a link. I'll put a link in the chat. This has like 42 episodes. These are my favorite Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if you can see that link. I don't know how that works when I send it through here. I'm not using the webpage YouTube. That's one of my favorite shows. Let's see. This is taking forever today, and we're going very slowly. All right, so for Lucy's sake, Arthur spoke out heartily, like his old self. Dr. Van Helsing, you may do what you will. I feel that in saying this, I am doing what my dear one would have approved. I shall not trouble you with questions till the time comes. Muhammad says it wasn't me. I would suggest anything for Stephen King. What do you mean for? I think you're using the wrong preposition here. When you say I would suggest anything for Stephen King, can you explain what that means? Because I think that maybe you meant a different preposition. The old professor stood up as he said solemnly, and you're right. There will be pain for us all. But it will not be all pain, nor will this pain be the last. We and you too, you most of all, dear boy, will have to pass through the bitter water before we reach the sweet. But we must be brave of heart and unselfish and do our duty, and all will be well. I slept on a sofa in Arthur's room that night. Van Helsing did not go to bed at all. He went to and fro. I think we talked about that. To and fro. No, we were talking about back and forth. You know, back and forth means back and forward, but to and fro means like side to side. To and fro, to and fro. So you have back and forth, back and forth. But this is side to side is to and fro. It's the same thing. Oh, Muhammad says, I would suggest anything written by Stephen King. Oh, yeah, but I'm not touching anything that has a copyright because I'll get in trouble with YouTube. So it has to be like 100 years old, at least, before I can touch it. I slept on a sofa in Arthur's room that night. Van Helsing did not go to bed at all. He went to and fro, as if patrolling the house. Patrolling is like a policeman watching, looking for something. So Van Helsing didn't sleep. He was just walking around the house like he was waiting for something or looking for something, like the police. And was never out of sight of the room where Lucy lay in her coffin, strewn with wild garlic flowers, which sent through the odor of lily and rose a heavy, overpowering smell into the night. Okay, now we have Mina Harker's journal, 22nd of September. In the train to Exeter, Jonathan sleeping. It seems only yesterday that the last entry was made, and yet how much between then, in Whitby, and all the world before me. Jonathan away and no news of him. And now, married to Jonathan. Jonathan a solicitor, a partner, rich, master of his business. Mr. Hawkins dead. and buried, and Jonathan with another attack that may harm him. Someday he may ask me about it. Down it all goes. I am rusty in my shorthand. See what unexpected prosperity does for us? So it may be as well to freshen it up again with an exercise anyhow. Muhammad says, I can send you an old book about forecasting financial markets. Don't you think that would be too, if you want to present technical business? Well, how old is it? Because to be out of copyright, it would have to be probably like 100 years old. I don't know if that would still be very useful. The service was very simple and solemn. There were only ourselves and the servants there, one or two old friends of his from Exeter, his London agent, and a gentleman representing Sir John Paxton, the president of the Incorporated Law Society. John and I stood hand in hand, and we felt that our best and dearest friend was gone from us. We came back to town quietly, taking a bus to Hyde Park Corner. Jonathan thought it would interest me to go into the Row for a while, so we sat down. But there were very few people there, and it was sad-looking and desolate to see so many empty chairs. Desolate means like empty. It's like a combination of empty and sad. So imagine if you see a place where you expect a lot of people. There are a lot of chairs waiting for people, but there are no people. That kind of gives an extra sense of sadness. David Garcia says Alice in Wonderland by Carol that's a good suggestion, Alice in Wonderland. I still have to finish The Wizard of Oz. Oh my gosh. I've got too many books going at the moment. Mohammed says Oliver Twist. I love Charles Dickens, and I've already done David Copperfield. I want to do this is the time of year that I would love to do Oliver, because when I was growing up, they always played Oliver the movie on TV. This is before there were video cassettes or DVDs or computers. So you could only watch what they played on the 2 or 3 channels that you had on the TV. There was no cable. There was nothing. But every Thanksgiving, and this is Thanksgiving week, they used to play Oliver. Or on Thanksgiving, they used to play Oliver. Thanksgiving is next Thursday. So I just have really wonderful memories of watching Oliver the movie from the 1960s. And, then having Thanksgiving is kind of a whole thing. So I really wanted to finish Dracula in October, and then in the beginning of November start Oliver. I would have loved to have done that, but I just didn't have the time. I've got too many things going. But that's definitely one that I want to do, and maybe very soon. There's a Charles Dickens story called A Christmas Carol, which is very famous. It's been made into many movies. And I think when I finish with Dracula, if I ever finish reading it, I would like to do that maybe before Christmas. So if I can, we're halfway through Dracula. Maybe I can get to it. A Christmas Carol is actually a pretty short story. We came back to the town quietly, taking the bus to Hyde Park Corner. Jonathan thought it would interest me to go into the Row for a while, so we sat down. But there were very few people there, and it was sad-looking and desolate to see so many empty chairs. It made us think of the empty chair at home, so we got up and walked down Piccadilly. Jonathan was holding me by the arm, the way he used to in the old days before I went to school. I felt it very improper, for you can't go on for some years teaching etiquette and decorum to other girls without the pedantry of it biting into yourself a bit. But it was Jonathan, and he was my husband, and we didn't know anybody who saw us, and we didn't care if they did. So on we walked. And there we go, using that word on, the preposition on, but here it means we continued. We continued to walk. On we walked. Did I miss something? PP says my question up. Let's see. Can you read comic books? I always heard about him, but I didn't read any of them. Who are you talking about? You always heard about who? I tried doing comic books because there's a very large there's a website with a very large collection of comic books. And I thought that might be good because that's like just dialogue. That would be interesting. But they use a lot of really weird language that, I don't know, it's not very useful. So I kind of gave up on that, even though I think it is a good idea. Pachu's asking about the word decorum, and that means proper behavior, correct public behavior. So this woman, I guess she was teaching girls good manners. Maybe she was a teacher in a school, and she was teaching girls how to behave properly. And she was kind of embarrassed because her husband took her arm in public. And she was thinking, oh, you know, all day I'm telling girls the proper way to behave, and this really isn't proper, but I don't care. I've had a long day and I don't care. I was looking at a very beautiful girl in a big cartwheel hat, sitting in a Victoria outside Giuliano's when I felt Jonathan clutch. Remember, clutch, that's like grabbing something very hard. Clutch my arm so tight that he hurt me, and he said under his breath, "My God." Mohammed says, took her arm, meaning? That just means that he grabbed her arm. Like maybe like, I don't know. I can't do it because I only have, maybe like this. Or maybe he grabbed her elbow like that. Something like that. I'm not sure exactly. In some way, he took her arm. I'm always anxious about Jonathan, for I fear that some nervous fit may upset him again, so I turned to him quickly and asked him what it was that disturbed him. He was very pale. His eyes seemed bulging. Bulging is when something goes out more than normal, so your eyes go out a little bit, but if your eyes go out like that, that's your eyes are bulging. His eyes were bulging. He was very pale, and his eyes seemed bulging out, as half in terror and half in amazement. He gazed at a tall, thin man with a beaky nose. A beak, that's like the mouth of a bird. So if a man has a beaky nose, that means that he has a nose that looks like the nose of a bird. PP says stared. Stared is when you look at something and you're paying very close attention to it. Like if you're out in public with children and the children see somebody strange, they might look and you say, "Don't stare." I think PP says, are stare and gaze the same? I think no. I think that gaze is more calm and stare is more of a panic. You know, if you see something very unusual, you might stare. But if you gaze, it's kind of like this. Do you see a difference? I don't know if I'm a good enough actor to show you the difference. Wait, let's see what happens. If we look for pictures of stare versus gaze, let's see if it confirms what I just told you. Let's see. So first we'll look at a stare. Okay, this is kind of the example that I was talking about. It seems like he's paying attention and maybe kind of tense, right? Now let's look for gaze. See, it's looking, but it's more calm. And the person is paying attention, but it's more calm. Does that make sense? So a gaze, if somebody is staring at you, you might think, well, why are you looking at me like that? And if somebody's gazing at you, you might think, do you love me? Why are you looking at me like that? It's a little bit different. It's a little different kind of attention. But they're both looking with attention, just different types of attention. He gazed at the tall man. So at first he's looking at him with surprise, but then it's kind of like, huh? He gazed at a tall man with a beaky nose and a black mustache and pointed beard. That means his beard was like this. Who was also observing a pretty girl. He was looking at her so hard that he did not see either of us, so I had a good view of him. His face was not a good face. It was hard and cruel and sensual, and big white teeth that looked all the whiter because his lips were so red. Were pointed like an animal's. Jonathan kept staring at him till I was afraid he would notice. I feared he might take it ill. He looked so fierce and nasty. I asked Jonathan why he was disturbed, and he answered, evidently thinking that I knew as much about it as he did. Did you see who it is? No, dear, I said. I don't know him. Who is it? His answers seemed to shock and thrill me, for it was said, as if he did not know that it was me, Mina, to whom he was speaking. It is the man himself. The poor dear was evidently terrified at something. Very greatly terrified. I do believe that if he had not had me to lean on, to support him, he would have sunk down. He kept staring. A man came out of the shop with a small parcel. A parcel is a little package. So maybe he bought something. A man came out of the shop with a small parcel and gave it to the lady, who then drove off. The dark man kept his eyes fixed on her. When the carriage moved up, earlier we were talking about pull up. It could have been the same. You could use that word if you want. But that means, well, maybe not. Pull up means it came towards something. So maybe I changed my mind. And so I think that when you say pull up, you should have an object. And move up, you don't need an object. It just means moving forward. When the carriage moved up Piccadilly, he followed in the same direction, and he hailed a hansom. Hailing is what you do when you want to have a taxi. I guess people don't use taxis anymore. They use Uber. But if you were going to call a taxi, you do this. You put out your hand like this, and you hail a taxi. PP says he kept his eyes fixed on her. Mean stare. Well, it doesn't have to be mean. It's weird, but it doesn't have to be mean. To have your eyes fixed on something means your eyes don't move. They just stay right there. And it could be mean, but it could be other things too. She was pretty, so it could have been like strong desire. But I think the way they're describing it is, he's a vampire and he likes to take the blood from people. So I think he's thinking about, oh, I want to take her blood. I think that's the way he's looking at it, her. So she hailed a hansom. A hansom is a type of, it's like a carriage. It's just a carriage. So, hey, come pick me up. Jonathan kept looking after him and and said, as if to himself, "I believe it's the Count. But he's grown young. My God, if this is to be so, oh my God, my God, if only I knew, if only I knew." He was distressing himself so much that I feared to keep his mind on the subject by asking him any questions, so I remained silent. I drew away quickly. Remember, draw means to pull. So he's holding her arm, and she drew away. She pulled away quickly. He was distressing him so much that I feared to keep his mind on the subject by asking him any questions, so I remained silent. She didn't want to ask him what was happening, but she did get his attention by pulling her arm away. And he, holding my arm, came easily. Oh, so she pulled her arm and he followed. We walked a little further and then went in and sat for a while in the green park. It was a hot day for autumn, and there was a comfortable seat in a shady place. After a few minutes, staring at nothing, Jonathan's eyes closed, and he went quickly into sleep with his head on my shoulder. I thought it was the best thing for him, so did not disturb him. In about 20 minutes, he woke up and said to me quite cheerfully, "Why, Mina, have I been asleep? Oh, do forgive me for being so rude. Come, we'll have a cup of tea somewhere." He had evidently forgotten all about the dark stranger. As in his illness, he had forgotten all that this episode had reminded him of. I don't like his lapsing into forgetfulness. To lapse means, we saw that with relapse. Remember that word relapse? Do you remember what that means? We were talking about when somebody gets sick and they start getting better and better, and then something happens and they become worse. That's a relapse. That means going from improving to getting worse. We talked about that a few days ago. The word lapse means to go back. How did they use it here? I don't like this lapsing into forgetfulness. So sometimes he seems okay, and then sometimes he goes in reverse, and he goes into this strange state where he forgets what happened. I wonder how you define that word, lapse. Lapse is a noun or verb with multiple meanings depending on the context. Temporary failure, decline, passage of time. Yeah, so like a decline, or you get the idea, sometimes he's okay and sometimes what happened? She doesn't like it when that happens. It's like a failure, or I think also a decline. I don't like this lapsing into forgetfulness. It may make or continue some injury to the brain. I must not ask him, for fear I shall do more harm than good. But I must know, learn the facts of his journey abroad. The time has come, I fear, when I must open the parcel. I know what is written. Oh, Jonathan, you will, I know, forgive me if I do wrong. But it's for your own sake. But it's for your own dear sake. So there we have that, for your own sake again. I put that on my list of things that we'll practice today. But that just means I'm only thinking of you when I do this. I'm not curious about what's in the book, in your diary, in your journal. But I'm only reading it to help you. It's only because I'm thinking of you that I'm going to read it. It's for your own sake. Later, sad homecoming in every way, the house empty of the dear soul who was so good to us, Jonathan still pale and dizzy under a slight relapse of his malady, So now we've got two words that we've seen several times. Relapse, that means you're improving, you're sick and you're getting better, and suddenly you become worse. That's a relapse. And malady, we've talked about the root word mal, which means bad or evil, and malady means sickness or illness. Muhammad says, for God's sake. That is, so when you say for someone's sake, that means think of that person. Do it for that person, not for yourself, not for anybody else, just for that person. So that phrase, for God's sake, is an expression of frustration. When you say, oh, just think of God and do it like this. Meaning, stop making God suffer and do it like this. PP is asking about the word dizzy. Dizzy is when you feel like everything is moving around. You know, if you drink too much alcohol, well, you probably don't do that, PP. But if someone did drink too much alcohol, then the room maybe would start spinning. They would feel dizzy. Or if you sit in a chair and somebody spins you around many, many times and you try to walk, you'll feel dizzy. Jonathan, still pale and dizzy under the slight relapse of his malady. So malady, mal means evil or bad, and malady means sickness, something that makes you feel bad, something evil. And now a telegram from Van Helsing, whoever he may be. You will be grieved to hear that Mrs. Westenra died 5 days ago, and that Lucy died the day before yesterday. They were both buried today. Oh, what a wealth of sorrow in a few words. Poor Mrs. Westenra. Poor Lucky. Gone, gone. Oh, poor Lucy. My eyes. I should wear my glasses. I can't read. Poor Lucy. Gone, gone, never to return to us. And poor, poor Arthur, to have lost such a sweetness out of his life. God help us all to bear our troubles. Dr. Seward's Diary, 22nd of September. It's all over. Arthur has gone back to Ring and has taken Quincy Morris with him. What a fine fellow is Quincy. PP says, take a rest. I can't. We have to... How many... Is this a long chapter? It seems like we've been doing this a long time, but let me just see how many... Oh no, I think we just have a few more pages. So Mohammed and Pachu, if you want to practice, we'll be moving on to that in a few more pages, okay? All right, let's go back here. It's all over. Arthur has gone back to Ring and has taken Quincy Morris with him. What a fine fellow is Quincy! I believe in my heart of hearts that he suffered as much about Lucy's death as any of us. But he bore himself through it all like a moral Viking. If America can go on breeding men like that, she will be a power in the world indeed. So now we have indeed as an exclamation. Yes. Wait, how did they describe indeed as an exclamation? Let's see. Truly, certainly, introducing information, expressing surprise or interest. Yeah, I guess in that way. If America can go on breeding men like that, she will be a power in the world indeed. Van Helsing is lying down, having a rest, preparatory to his journey. He goes to Amsterdam tonight, but says he returns tomorrow night. That he only wants to make some arrangements, which can only be made personally. He is to stop with me then, if he can. He says that he has work to do in London, which may take him some time. Poor old fellow. I fear that the strain of the past week has broken down even his iron strength. All the time of the burial he was, all All the time of the burial he was, I could see, putting some terrible restraint on himself. When all was over, we were standing beside Arthur, who, poor fellow, was speaking of his part in the operation, where his blood had been transferred to his Lucy's veins. I could see Van Helsing's face grow white and purple by turns. Arthur was saying that he felt since then as if they had been really married, and that she was his wife in the sight of God. None of us said a word of the other operations, and none of us ever shall. Arthur and Quincy went away together to the station, and Van Helsing and I came on here. So here again we have the word on, which means continue. We continued on. We came on here. We continued to this place here. PP says, what does powerless and is it the opposite of powerful? Yeah, pretty much is. Powerless means to feel like you have no power. And powerful means to feel like you're full of power. So yes, I think they are opposites. The moment we were alone in the carriage, he gave way to a regular fit of hysterics. Wait, who is he traveling with? Van Helsing and I came on here. Oh, so when they got into the carriage, as soon as they entered the carriage to go wherever they were going, Van Helsing started going crazy. Hysterics usually means crying or screaming, and a fit is like an explosion of emotions. So he had an explosion of crying or screaming or something. We'll see in a minute. He has denied to me since that it was hysterics, and insisted that it was only his sense of humor asserting itself under very terrible conditions. So maybe he started crying or something, and later he said, I wasn't crying, I was just joking. He laughed till he cried, and I had to draw down the blinds lest anyone should see us and misjudge. And then he cried till he laughed again, and laughed and cried together, just as a woman does. I tried to be stern with him, as one is to a woman under the circumstances. Stern means like serious. Stop it. But it had no effect. Men and women are so different in manifestations of nervous strength or weakness. Then when his face grew grave and stern again, I asked him why his mirth. Mirth means happiness, like laughing, having fun, enjoying. So he's saying, why are you sometimes laughing? You're crying and then you're laughing? Why are you laughing sometimes? What are you laughing about? Why the mirth? And why at such a time? His reply was in a way characteristic of him, for it was logical and forceful and mysterious. He said, "Ah, you don't comprehend, friend John. Do not think that I am not sad, though I laugh. See, I've cried, even when the laugh did choke me. But no more think that I am all sorry when I cry. For the laugh, he came just the same. Keep it always with you, that laughter, who knock at your door and say, 'May I come in?' is not true laughter. No, he is a king, and he come when and how he like. But he ask no person. He choose no time of suitability. He say, 'I'm here, behold, an example. I grieve my heart out for that so sweet young girl. I give my blood for her. Though I am old and worn, I give my time, my skill, my sleep. I let my other sufferers want that she may have all. And yet I can laugh at her very grave. Laugh when the clay from the spade of the sexton drop upon her coffin and say, thud, thud. Thud is like a flat a flat sound. Like this is a, wait, I don't want to, this is a thud. It's that kind of sound. Pachu says, get on, take on, build. Okay, that's your list. Oh, those are, that's a list of continue. Get on, take on, build on. Yeah, sometimes you can add on to a verb and it means continue doing that thing. That happens a lot. Talk on, walk on. I think you could do that with any verb, seems like. PP says, is it like knock? It's like knock, except, knock has some extra sound to it. A thud is like a flat sound. You know what the difference is? Thud is like, imagine if you drop something on the dirt. You hear a noise, but it's a very flat noise. And a knock has some echo to it. It's like kind of like water. You see the rings of the water. When you knock, you can see like the rings. You can imagine the rings of water, right? But no, slap is kind of a violent. But I wonder what kind of pictures we could get with thud. Probably, I don't know if they make picture. If you could show a thud. Let's see. Do they show anything? I can't think of what we might use to... it's a deep sound, but it's not a... I don't know how to describe it. Let's ask ChatGPT. I'm cheating. I'm curious how that would be defined. Okay, they're both sounds, but they differ in tone, cause, and context. A thud is a dull, heavy sound. Deep, muffled, heavy. If you drop something on the floor, see if this is hard though. Oh, on the book. Okay, here, I'm going to drop something on a book. You hear that? You wouldn't, you would hear this from the other room. You wouldn't hear that from the other room because it doesn't make a lot of noise. It makes noise, but it's a deep noise with no vibration because the book is very heavy. So that's something like if you drop something on the ground outside, it's probably a thud. Or if you live in an apartment and somebody falls on the floor above you, you might hear in your apartment. That's a thud. It doesn't have any echo. But you hear this. That's very loud. The sound of a drop. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. That's a good simple way of saying it. The sound of a drop. Okay. All right. And yet I can laugh at her, very grave. Laugh when the clay from the spade, so the spade is the shovel. Laugh when the shovel is going thud, thud, thud to my heart, till it send back the blood from my cheek. My heart bleed for that poor boy, that dear boy, so of the age of mine own boy, had I been so blessed that he live, and with his hair and eyes the same. There. You know why I love him so, and yet, when he says things that touch my husband heart to the quick, and make my father heart yearn to him as to no other man, not even you, friend John, for we are more level in experiences than father and son. So it's hard to understand him because he's Dutch and he's speaking English in a weird way, but he's saying the reason I feel so badly for him, the man who lost his almost wife, is because he's the age of my own son, but my own son died. So when I look at him, I see my son, and that's why I feel very emotional. Yet even at such a moment, King laugh, he come to me and shout and bellow in my ear, here I am, till the blood come dance back and bring some of the sunshine that he carry with him to my cheek. Oh, friend John, it is a strange world, a sad world, a world full of miseries and woes and troubles. Woes means like troubles or sadness. It's a similar word to all the other words that he's listing. Things that make you sad, things that make you worried, those are woes. And yet when King Laugh come, he make them all dance to the tune he play. Bleeding hearts and dry bones of churchyard, and tears that burn as they fall, all dance together to the music that he make with the smileless mouth of him. And believe me, friend John, that he is good to come and kind. Ah, we men and women are like ropes drawn tight with strain that pull us different ways. The tears come like the rain on the ropes. They brace us up until perhaps the strain become too great. We break, but King Laugh he comes like the sunshine. And he ease off the strain again, and we bear to go on with our labor, what it may be. PP says miseries means miserable. Miseries are a noun, so you can talk about them like a thing that you have. I have miseries. There are many miseries in the world. But miserable is a feeling. Oh, I feel miserable today. Oh, it was the grim irony of it all, this so lovely lady garlanded with flowers that looked so fair as life, till one by one he wondered if she were truly dead. She laid in that so fine marble house, in that lonely churchyard, where rest so many of her kin. We were talking about that word kin, I think, this morning. Kin means family. So she's buried in the ground, in the same church as the rest of her family, so she's with her kin. Laid there with the mother who loved her, and whom she loved, and that sacred bell going toll, toll, toll. Toll is the sound of a church bell, or the sound of a bell, but normally when you hear that word toll, you think of a church bell. So sad and slow, and those holy men, with the white garments of the angel, pretending to read books, and yet all the times their eyes never on the page, and all of us with the bowed head. When you bow your head, that's like this. And all for what? She's dead. So, is it not? Well. For the life of me, Professor, I can't see anything to laugh at in all that. Why, your expression makes it harder puzzle than before. But even if the burial service was comic, what about poor Art and his trouble? Why, his heart simply breaking. Just so, said he. Said he not that the transfusion of his blood to her veins had made her truly his bride? Yes, it was a sweet and comforting idea for him. Quite so. But there was a difficulty, friend John. If so that, then what about the others? Ho ho! Then this so sweet maid is a polyandrist. Poly means many, and andros, that's a Greek word for God, for man, for a man. So polyandrist means a woman with many men. So she was getting married to one man, Art, and he gave her a blood transfusion, and he said to the professor and the doctor, you know, I feel like we didn't have the opportunity to get married, but I feel in a way that we were married because I gave her my blood. And so the professor now is making a pretty bad joke that, well, I gave her my blood too. Does that mean we're married? And you gave her your blood too. Does that mean you're married to her? And that's why he's saying she's a polyandrist. She has many men. And me with my poor dead wife to me, but alive by church's law, though no wits, all gone, even I, who am faithful husband to his now no wife, am a bigamist. And a bigamist is a man that has several wives. That's called bigamy. I don't see where the joke comes from in there either, I said, and I did not feel particularly pleased with him for saying such things. He laid his hand on my arm and said, "Friend John, forgive me if I pain. I showed not my feeling to others when it would wound, but only to you, my old friend, whom I can trust. If you could have looked into my heart, then, when I want to laugh, if you could have done so when the laugh arrived, if you could do so now, when King Laugh have pack up his crown and all that is to him, for he go far, far away from me, and for a long, long time, maybe you would perhaps pity me the most of all." I was touched by the tenderness of his tone and asked, "Why?" "Because I know." And now we're all scattered, and for many a long day loneliness will sit over our roofs with brooding wings. Lucy lies in the tomb of her kin, a lordly death house in a lonely churchyard, away from teeming London. Teeming means having a lot of activity. But actually, you know, there's the phrase teeming with activity. So let me just check what teeming means. You always see that phrase, teeming with activity. Filled with, overflowing, brimming. How did they use it here? Teeming London. So, I guess crowded London. I guess you would maybe translate this into simpler language as crowded London. Where the air is fresh and the sun rises over Hampstead Hill, and where the wild flowers grow of their own accord. So I can finish this diary, and God only knows if I shall ever begin another, if I do. Or if I even open this again, it will be good to deal with different people and different themes, for here at the end, where the romance of my life is told, ere I go back to take up the thread of my life work, I say sadly without hope, fini. Okay, wait, let me see. Okay, yeah, we're almost done. Just one more page. I'm thinking, oh my God, there's another thing here. Right. Where was it? Okay. The Westminster Gazette. So remember, a gazette is a type of newspaper. So that's the Westminster newspaper. 25th of September, a Hampstead mystery. So this is an article from a newspaper. The neighborhood of Hampstead is just at present exercised with a series of events which seems to run on lines parallel to those of what was known to writers of headlines as the Kensington Horror, or the Stabbing Woman, or the Woman in Black. During the past 2 or 3 days, several cases have occurred of young children straying from home. That verb, to stray, that means going in the wrong place, going to the wrong place, going in the wrong direction. Do you know that in English, we usually, instead of calling, if you see a dog in the street or a cat in the street, you might say, "Oh, that's a street dog. That's a street cat." But actually, a lot of times we use the word stray because when you see a cat or a dog, those normally live with humans. So they're not in the right place if they're living in the street. They're in the wrong place. Somehow maybe they got lost, or maybe nobody wants them, but they don't seem to be in the right place. And so we call them stray dogs or stray cats because they're in the wrong place. They're not in the place where they're supposed to be. If you follow a religion and then you decide, "Oh, I'm not going to do that anymore," then we say you have gone astray. So you were walking down the right path, and now you're going in the wrong direction. You're not going in the place where you belong anymore. And so when you talk about someone who abandons their religion, you say they've gone astray. And so how were they using it here? That's an interesting word. But let's see, the women during the past 2 days or 3 days, several cases occurred of young children straying from home. So the children are supposed to be at home, but somehow, for some reason, they went somewhere where they weren't supposed to go. PP says, homeless dog. Homeless dog. No, well, you could say homeless dog. That sounds a little bit strange. You probably would say stray dog. Stray dog. So children straying means children going where they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be at home, but if they go somewhere else, they've strayed. During the past 2 or 3 days, several cases have occurred of young children straying from home or neglecting to return from their playing on the heath. In all these cases, the children were too young to give any properly intelligible accounts of themselves. Intelligible means something you could understand. These were children who were too young maybe to explain where they lived or what they were doing. But the consensus of their excuses is that they had been with a bluffer lady. Bluff means lying, somebody who deceives, somebody who lies. Well, bloofer, but maybe this is different. That would be spelled differently. Let's see if I spell it like this, what that means, because I don't think that could be right. Oh, I don't think ChatGPT recognizes that. Bloofer lady. Bloofer, historical archaic term most famously impairing. Oh, it even says this is most famously used in Dracula. So it's not a word that anybody uses anymore. But actually it means beautiful. I'm glad I checked that. Okay, let's see. A bloofer lady. It has always been late in the evening when they had been missed, and the 2 occasions the children have not been found until early in the following morning. It's generally supposed that in their neighborhood that as the first child missed gave as his reason for being away that a bloofer lady had asked him to come for a walk. The others had picked up the phrase and used it as occasion served. This is the more natural way, as their favorite game of the little ones at present is luring each other away by wiles. A correspondent writes that to see some of the tiny tots pretending to be the bloofer lady is supremely funny. Some of our caricaturists might, he says, take a lesson in the irony of grotesque by comparing the reality in the picture. It is only... I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. It is only in accordance with general principles of human nature that the bloofer lady should be the popular role at these al fresco performances. Al fresco is an Italian phrase. Fresco is the Italian word for fresh, and al means to the. So to the fresh, but that really means outside. And so, that's very common in Europe, especially in Italy. They like to eat outside on the sidewalk. And that's called dining al fresco. So when you see that phrase al fresco, that always means outside of the buildings. So an al fresco performance, the children reenact the mysterious, beautiful lady saying, "Come here, little child." And so the children are reenacting that in the street, al fresco. Our correspondent naively says that even Ellen Terry could not be so winningly attractive as some of these grubby-faced little children pretend and even imagine themselves to be. So they're saying it's actually kind of really beautiful the way the children reenact trying to be the beautiful lady saying, "Come here." And even a really beautiful person couldn't do it as well as some of these children. PP says, "Are you originally from Italy?" No, I was born in the US. I'm from the United States, but I live in Mexico. There is, however, possibly a serious side to the question. For some of the children, indeed all who have been missed at night, have been slightly torn or wounded in the throat, and the wounds seem such as might be made by a rat or a small dog, and although of not much importance individually, would tend to show that whatever animals inflict them has a system or method of its own. The police of the division have been instructed to keep a sharp lookout for straying children. So straying children, that means children who aren't with their parents, or children who look like they shouldn't be in the street but should be at home somewhere, especially when very young, in and around Hampstead Heath. And for any stray dog, which may be about, and here you have stray dog, like a dog that looks like it doesn't have a home, that looks like it ran away or shouldn't be there. Westminster Gazette, 25th of September, extra special, "The Hampstead Horror, Another Child Injured, the Bloofer Lady. We've just received intelligence that another child missed last night. Was only discovered late in the morning under a furze bush at the Shooter's Hill side of Hampstead Heath, which is perhaps less frequented than the other parts. It has the same tiny wound in the throat and has been noticed in other cases. It was terribly weak and looked quite emaciated." Emaciated is that's how you look if you don't eat for a very long time and you look very sick and you can see your bones. That's emaciated. It too, when partially restored, had the common story to tell of being lured away by the Bloofer Lady. Okay, whoa, well, that was the end of chapter 14, or chapter 13, sorry. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move to Discord. We're not moving, we're keeping the video on YouTube and other platforms, but Pachu and Mohammed are going to join me, and we're going to practice pronunciation for about an hour with some of the phrases and words, vocabulary words that we learned in this chapter. Okay, so if you want to practice your pronunciation in a very in-depth kind of way, or you want to practice intonation to eliminate your accent in English, then you should stay for the fun part, the pronunciation part. All right, but before we do that, I am going to take a 1-minute break. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I thought I'll put everything together now so we don't have to waste time when we start. So let me just switch over to this document here. We already have some examples for our vocabulary words. And now we're going to join Pachu and Mohammed on Discord, and we're going to practice these vocabulary words while also focusing on pronunciation and intonation. So let's open up Discord. I thought I already had that open. Okay, give me a second to sign in. All right, here we go. Let's. All right. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Oh,
Hello, sir.
hello, Pachu. How are you doing today?
Sir, I'm doing well.
That's good. How about you, Mohammed? Are you there? Mohammed.
Yes, how are you?
Okay, okay, good. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine.
All right. Okay. Well, I just picked three phrases or three words for us to look at today. And the first one
Yes.
is
Okay.
penniless. Penniless. What does that mean, Pachu? Penniless.
Uh, is it related to money?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
There
Okay.
is an echo in the sound.
Yeah, I hear that echo too. I'm not sure where that's coming from this time. Now it's
Yeah.
okay. Maybe it disappeared. Okay. Uh, so it's related to money. That's true. Oh, the echo is back. Who's doing?
But can you mute YouTube and only listen from Discord?
Yes, I have already muted YouTube
Oh,
from my side.
so I wonder who that is. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's okay. I think we're okay now. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So yes, you're right. Penniless has something to do with money. What does that mean to be penniless?
No money.
That's right. Absolutely no money. Absolutely no money. Money. Mohammed, can you read the first sentence? What does the first sentence say?
For someone's sake,
Oh,
do it because you.
well, let me make this bigger so it's clear. This one here. Oh, let's change it. Here we go. Now it's less confusing.
He was penniless after losing his job.
Okay. Now, if I say I'm going to say the first three words, okay? But I just want you to think about the length of the vowel sounds. He was penniless. He was penniless. He was penniless. Do you hear any big vowel sounds in there? He was penniless.
Penniless. First syllable
Okay, the first syllable
in
of penny.
penniless.
Okay, the rest of them are pretty small, aren't they?
Yes.
He was penniless. Can you say it like that?
He was penniless.
Penniless. Penniless.
He was penniless.
Can you say it, Pachu? How would you say that?
He was penniless. He was
He
penniless.
was penniless. He was penniless. He was penniless. So we've got small, big, small. He was penniless.
He was penniless.
Okay. What is let's see. After losing is. After losing is. After losing is. What do you think about the vowel sounds in there, Pachu? After losing is.
After lu.
Oh, okay. So the big sound is lu.
Ah, yeah, after.
Maybe after.
Yes,
But you could do after if you want. You could do a. Should we do a? What's the a? After losing is. No, no, no. Let's not make that big. Let's just keep it with what losing is. Losing is.
yes,
Losing.
yes.
So this is actually pretty small. So this is like one word. Needless after. Needless after. Needless after.
Okay, needless after. Needless after.
It's like one word. Needless after. Needless after. Needless after.
Needless after. Needless after.
He was penniless after losing.
He was penniless after losing.
Okay. Now, can you say that, Muhammad? He was penniless after losing.
He was penniless after losing.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, do you know that word his is a really common word, and it often just attaches to the word in front of it. So you probably would say these two words together. Losing is, losing is, losing is.
Losiness.
Mm-hmm.
Losiness.
It becomes like one word. That word his, most unless it's a very special word, it just attaches itself to the word in front of it. Losing is, losing is.
Losiness.
He was penniless after losing his.
He was penniless after losiness.
Hmm. And then, what do you think about the final word, Muhammad? Is that a long sound? Job.
Long.
Yeah, it's really long. Okay, so now we have our rhythm. We found our rhythm here. He was penniless after losing his job. Can you say it like
He
that?
was he was penniless after losing his job.
Hmm. Can you say that, Pachu?
Yeah. He was penniless after losing his job.
Losing is, losing is, losing is, losing is.
Losing it, losing it, losing it.
He was penniless after losing his job.
He was penniless after losing his job.
Okay. And Pachu, how many phrases do you think we could divide this sentence into?
So he was penniless
Mm-hmm.
is the first,
Okay.
and then
Mm-hmm.
after losing his job.
Okay. I think maybe let's just do two. Let's just do two. It's not a very long,
Yes,
so let's just make two phrases. Okay. So
yes,
he
okay,
was
yes.
penniless after losing his job.
He was penniless after his losing job.
After Oh, PP is leaving. Bye, PP. Thanks for watching. Wow, what time is it? It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. It's definitely time for bed. Okay. He was penniless after losing his job.
He was penniless after losing his job.
Yeah, so we can pause. We can do a pause there to separate the two phrases if you want. You don't have to, but that could be a way to show that it's two phrases. He was penniless after losing his job.
He was penniless after losing his job.
Can you say the whole sentence, Mohammed?
He was penniless. He was penniless.
Hmm.
Penniless. He was penniless after losing his job.
Okay. Do you know, I'm hearing you say penniless, and to me that seems like the ear is kind of hitting kind of in the back, but what you want is to push it forward a little bit more. Penniless.
He was penniless. He was penniless
Say
after losing his job.
say li li li.
Le, le,
Okay,
le.
li. Do you feel where that hits in your mouth? It's kind of like maybe right around here when you say the vowel sound li li. Maybe here. like that. Le.
Le.
Do you feel
Yes.
that? But can you try to
Yes.
redirect it and make it go like that? Le.
Penniless.
Oh,
Penniless.
but it should be knee. I'm sorry, it's knee. I'm getting tired. Knee. We should be doing knee, not lee. So this is ne. Same thing though, ne. But try to go knee. You should feel it in your nose. Knee.
Knee.
Yeah, knee.
Penniless.
Penny.
Penniless.
Penniless. That's better. That sounds better. Penniless.
He
Penniless.
was penniless. Penniless. He
He
was penniless.
He was penniless after losing his job. Okay. Now, in that first sentence, do you want to make this sound happy and fun, or do you want to make this sound sad and serious?
Fun.
Which fun? Okay. So now we'll always start with a high tone in the beginning of the phrase because mostly when you start a phrase, you'll start with a high tone. He. And when you get to your important
He.
when you get to your important word, penniless, uh, we're going to keep the high tone. So he was penniless. He was penniless. So we'll
He
fall
was
down.
penniless.
Uh-huh. So because this is the end of the phrase, we always, when you do a phrase, most of the time you want to start high and go low. But what we're going to do is say he was penniless. We'll have to do another high one for penniless, and fall down. Penniless. He was penniless.
He was penniless.
Yeah. He was penniless.
He was penniless.
Pachi, can you say that?
Uh, he was penniless.
Okay. He was penniless. Less. Can you go low? Less.
Okay. So he was penniless.
Mm.
Penniless.
Less. Penniless. You hear the different penniless. Penniless. I'm exaggerating. Penniless. Penniless.
Pen, penniless. Penniless.
He was
Penniless. He
okay.
was penniless.
All right. Now in the next phrase, Pachu, uh,
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you want to make this sound happy and fun or sad and serious?
Yeah, the serious.
Okay. So we're going to start our phrase in a high tone because you usually do start your phrase in a high tone. But
Yeah.
we're just going to go straight down to the bottom because we want to sound serious. So after losing his job.
After losing his job.
Losing his job. Losing his job.
Losing his job.
Lo-
Losing his job.
losing is. Losing is. Losing is.
Losing it. Losing it.
Losing is.
Losing it.
Losing his job.
Losing his job. Losing his job.
Losing his job.
Losing.
hmm Can you try?
Losing his job.
Can you try that, Muhammad? Start high, losing his job, and go down.
Yes. After losing his job.
Losing his job.
Losing his job.
He was penniless after losing his job.
He was penniless after losing his job.
Okay. When you say knee, try to push it out of your mouth more. Knee. You know when you say knee, your tongue kind of pulls back like a snake ready to attack. Knee.
Knee.
Okay. Penniless.
He was penniless
He was
after losing his job.
He was penniless after losing his job.
He was penniless
Mm-hmm.
after losing his job.
Can you try to say that, Pachu, the whole thing?
Uh, he was penniless after losing his job.
Okay, is it penniless or penniless? Penniless.
It's, it's a penniless, penniless.
Penniless. So it goes from high to low. Penniless.
It's a penniless,
He was penniless
penniless.
after losing his job.
He was penniless after losing his job.
Okay. How will you make a yes no question with that sentence, Pachu?
So was he penniless, penniless
Mm-hmm.
after losing his job?
Okay. When you're making a question in English, what is the question tone? What how would you describe the question tone?
Yeah, it's a rising tone.
Yeah, it is. So that would be was he? Was he? Was
Was he?
was
Was he?
was he penniless?
Was he penniless?
Okay.
Was he penniless?
And what is the most important word in that question, do you think?
It's was.
Okay,
Was.
was he? Was he?
Wa- Was he?
Was he
Was he?
was he
Was he?
was he penniless?
Was he
Oh,
penniless?
I'm doing it the wrong way. Was he penniless? Penny? Was he penniless? Penniless?
What was he? Uh, was he penniless?
uh,
Was he penniless?
was he penniless after losing his job?
Okay. Was he penniless after losing his job?
Can you say that, Muhammad? How would you say that?
Was was he penniless after losing his job?
Okay. So when you say the knee, just try to pull your tongue back like it's a snake ready to attack. Knee, knee.
He, he
So was he penniless? Penniless? Was he?
was
Was he? Go ahead.
was he penniless
Mm-hmm.
after losing his job?
Mm-hmm. And remember, when you say the "p" sound, you have to be pushing out a lot of air. P, p, p. Penniless.
Was he penniless?
P.
Penniless?
Pretend like you're spitting. P.
Was he was he penniless
See,
after losing his job?
I'm hearing you say penniless. Penniless. It's like you don't want to do the p part because it's probably not a very nice sound, but you have
I
to.
I can't mix it to the N sound.
You can't what
Mix the P with the N.
with the pen.
Ends
Mm-hmm.
pen
P.
pen
Can you say p?
pa
Can you say pe?
pe
Pe. Spit more.
pen
You have to spit more. Pe.
pen penniless
Penniless. Penniless. Was he
penniless.
was he penniless after losing his job?
Was he penniless? Was he penniless
Okay,
after
but
losing his job?
yeah, also though, remember to when you say e, you have to pull your tongue back like a snake about to attack. Penniless.
Was he penniless?
Mm-hmm. After losing his job.
But
Huh?
after losing his job,
Pachu, how will you answer no to that question?
So, no, he wasn't penniless after losing his job.
Okay, what do you think is better? Wasn't or wasn't?
Wasn't.
Yeah,
Wasn't.
yeah, that's better. Wasn't. That sounds better. All right. Tell me again. No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't penniless after losing his job.
Uh-huh. Can you say that, Muhammad? How would you say that?
no, he wasn't penniless No, he wasn't penniless after losing his job.
Okay. No, he wasn't penniless after losing his job. Okay.
No, he wasn't penniless after his losing his job.
Okay. All right. Can you see the new sentence that I have on the screen?
Yes.
All right. Can you read it? What does it say?
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with smile.
Okay. What does that word courteous mean? What does that mean? Courteous.
Yeah, I will search for it.
I'm sorry, what?
I will search for it because I
I'm
don't
sorry. You
know.
can't see it because of the way. Let me move this down. Now you probably can.
Uh,
It just means polite. We won't make it a big
yes,
mystery. It's a pretty common word though. It's just another word for polite. Courteous. Courteous. Okay.
cour- uh, courteous,
Courteous. Courteous. Courteous.
courteous.
Courteous.
Okay,
If I say the first,
courteous.
that's right. If I say the first three words of that phrase, tell me about the vowel sounds. The waiter was. The waiter was. The waiter was. The waiter was.
Can you zoom in?
Oh, sure. The waiter was. The waiter was. The
Th-
waiter was.
The way the waiter was.
What kind of vowel sounds do you hear? Do you hear really big, long vowel sounds or short vowel sounds in that phrase?
Waiter is long.
Just the A, right? Because it's got two sounds. It's a. So
Yes,
waiter. So it's just the A that's really long. The waiter was. Can you say that?
the waiter was.
Uh-huh. The waiter was. Pachu, can you say that? The waiter was.
The waiter was.
The
The
wa-
waiter was.
the short, long, short. The waiter was. Okay.
The waiter was.
What do you think about the next two words, Pachu? Very courteous. Very courteous. Very.
Very courteous.
What do you think about the
Very.
vowel sounds in that? Very courteous. Are they long or short? Hello? Uh-oh. I think
I can hear. I,
Pachu disappeared. Well, what do you think, Mohammed? While we're waiting for Pachu to return
Hello, sir.
from. Okay. Pachu is back from the land of mystery.
Hello, sir.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
What do you think about the vowel sounds? Very courteous. Very courteous. Very courteous. Which
Is a
vowel sound do you hear?
yeah, courteous.
Uh-huh. How
Is
about
a
very?
courteous.
What about very? Do you think there's a long sound in there somewhere? Very courteous.
Yes. Very. Yeah. Be. Be.
Yeah, I think it probably is. So let's uh let's highlight the big sounds so we can find our rhythm.
Yes.
All right. So this is
Yeah.
the waiter was very courteous.
The wait. The waiter was very courteous.
hmm How many syllables in that word courteous?
D. Was four.
I hear three. Courteous. Courteous.
Okay. Courteous.
Courteous. But you know that thing I told you about connecting the two vowel sounds? Courteous. I don't think it's so
Yeah. E.
not really that important here because this is not an accented syllable. So you don't have to pay too much attention here to that rule.
Okay.
So
Yes.
it could be
Yes.
very small here. The waiter was very courteous.
Okay. The waiter was very courteous.
Uh-huh. Can you say that, Mohammed, the whole phrase?
The waiter was very courteous.
Okay, the waiter was very courteous. All right. Now, if
The
I
wait
go ahead, do it again.
the waiter was very courteous.
Okay. Now, if I say the next three words together, think about how the length of the vowel sounds, if they're short or long. And greeted us, and greeted us, and greeted us.
Greeted. First syllable is long.
Okay. How about the word and? How does that sound in this phrase? And greeted us, and greeted us.
And and greeted us. And greeted us.
hmm It's really, if you notice, I'm just saying I'm not even saying any vowel sounds. I'm just saying and greeted, and greeted, and greeted. Can you say those two sound
And, gre-
two words?
and greeted us.
hmm Yeah. So there's really not even a vowel sound there. The waiter was very courteous and greeted us.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us.
hmm Okay, so I'm going to make this part big to remind us. But can you hear the rhythm? So we've got a rhythm going. The waiter was very courteous and greeted us.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us.
Can you say that, Pachu?
Okay. The waiter was very courteous and greeted us.
Greeted us, greeted us, greeted us.
Greeted us. Greeted us.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us.
What do you think, Pachu? What do you think about the next two words with a? Do you think those are important words?
No, sir.
Okay.
As with the
So
with
so
the
maybe what we could do is we could make this one big word here. Let's wait. I'm going to underline this. So this would be greeted us with a greeted us with a
greeted us with the
greeted us with a.
greeted 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 us with the
hmm The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a.
the waiter was very courteous and greeted with us.
Greeted us with a. Greeted us with a.
Greeted with the greeted with
Greet
greeted us with the
greeted us with a. Greeted us with a. Greeted us with a.
greeted with greeted us with the
That's hard, right? Can you try that, Mohammed? Can you try to say greeted us with a?
Greeted us with the
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a
Okay. Now, what about that final word, Mohammed? Can you say that final word?
smile.
Smile. Smile. What do you think about the
Smile.
what do you think about that vowel sound?
Long.
It's really long. Okay. So we'll make this pig. Okay. So if let's practice the rhythm of the entire sentence. The waiter was very courteous with us. The the waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
Okay. Now is it wissa or witta?
With the
Witta. Witta. Greeted us with da. With da. With da. Can you say with da?
greeted us with the
Yeah, greeted us with the
with
greeted with a smile.
greeted us with the smile.
Okay. Now, Mohammed, how many phrases do you think we could divide this sentence into?
The waiter was
Okay.
very courteous.
Okay, so the waiter was, that's one phrase.
Okay, yes.
Okay, like this. The waiter was very courteous.
And
I think it. I
greeted
think it would.
us.
I don't know. I think it would be a good idea to keep this. I think maybe we could divide this with the word and. I think that might be better. Like this. The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile. They're pretty short phrases. I think that might be okay to do it like this. Do you see what I did?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Pachu, what do you think? Should we make this sound happy or serious? Friendly
It's,
or educational?
yeah, friendly.
Friendly? Okay. So what does
Yeah.
that mean? How should we, if we want to make this friendly, well, first of all, how do all the phrases start? Do the phrases start high or low?
Yeah, it's a rising tone. It's a high.
Okay, high. Not rising, but probably just high. So I'm just going to make this syllable red to indicate this should be high. What do you
Yeah.
think? If we look at this phrase, the waiter was very courteous. What would you identify as maybe the most important word in this phrase?
It's a courteous.
Okay,
Berry is also an adjective,
so
adverb.
which one do you think would be better to make like our mountain peak?
Yeah, it's a berry.
Yeah, probably very. Let's make this. Let's do something different. Let's make this super big. Okay. Now it's friendly. So what should it be, high or low? It's friendly. It's nice. It's casual. High or low?
It's a high.
High. Okay. And then
High.
how should we end our sentence? Should it be high or low?
At the low.
Yeah, because usually what happens is there are several ways that you could do a sentence, but right now we're just doing something very simple. We're starting high and then we're moving down to the low. Okay, so we want to finish
Yes.
low here. Okay, so we have way there cur way there cur. The waiter was very courteous.
The waiter was very courteous.
Okay, the waiter was very courteous.
The waiter was very courteous.
Very courteous. That's right. That was better. I like the way you did that very that time. That really is how it should sound. The waiter was very courteous.
The waiter was very courteous.
Very courteous. That's our big word. That's our superstar word. Mohammed, can you try to say that?
Is
The waiter was very courteous.
Okay, but we want to try to give some tones to it. So the waiter, can you try to make that a little bit higher sound? The waiter, courteous, way cur. Can you hear the difference? Way
Yes.
cur, way cur.
The blue is not stressed, right?
Wait, it's
The
stressed.
is the I mean is a falling tone.
It's a fall. Well, it's a low tone, not exactly falling. It could be a falling tone if you want it to be, but it's a falling. Do you know what I do? I was using this website. Wait, let me see if I can find it, and I'll put it in the chat. I forgot how I found it. Like, I wish I could remember how I found this. Uh, Maybe if I do interactive. Where was that? No, I don't know. I found this website where it's like a musical website. You can talk into the microphone and it will tell you if you're doing high or low. It's kind of cool. But then you can see if you're doing a high tone or a low tone. It's kind of hard to notice at first until you recognize it. But I'm not going to waste time looking for it now, but I'll try to find it for the next time. Okay.
Yes, it will be very beneficial.
Yeah, because I think then you could just practice, and because it will show you like when you do the high, it will go up, and then when you do the low, it will go down. So then you know exactly, you can see it visually, and then maybe it, because I couldn't tell before until I started practicing with that. It's a hard thing to notice, but it's something that happens. Okay. So, but for
Okay.
so let's keep doing this blind for today, and then maybe tomorrow we could. Well, I'll find it. I can't remember how I found that. So the waiter was
Okay.
very courteous.
The waiter was very courteous.
Now, is it za or the?
The
The. The. Try again, but try to say the instead.
the waiter was very courteous.
Okay. Now, if we go to the next phrase, all right. Uh, how do most phrases start, Mohammed? Do they start with a high tone or a low tone usually?
High tone.
That's right. So for our first special word, we'll make that red, which will indicate that it should be high. Greeted us. Greeted us. Greeted us.
Greeted us.
Greeted us. Okay. And then this doesn't matter too much. We could make it go down a little bit. Greeted us with a.
Greeted us with a
Okay. Is it with za or with ta?
with a
Okay. Now, how do you want to finish this? Do you want to finish this phrase sounding serious or educational or happy and friendly?
educational.
You want to be educational? Okay.
Formal, yes.
Formal? Okay. All right. So then if you want to sound serious, you go low. Smile. Smile.
Yes.
Can you say it?
Smile. Yes.
Smile. Greeted us with a smile.
Greeted us with a smile.
Hmm. If you wanted to sound happy, you could make the first part of smile high. Smile. And you could give a falling tone. Smile. You hear the difference?
Okay.
So serious is just flat, smile, low. But if you wanted to sound happy or friendly, you could do it right. You could start high and then fall. Smile.
Smile.
Yeah, that's you've kind of got it there. That would be like kind of a happy way. Smile. You have to finish low because it's the end of the phrase, but you could start that word kind of high to make it sound nicer. Smile.
Smile.
hmm But since we're being educational or serious or formal, you can just say smile.
Okay. Smile.
Do you hear the difference?
Yes. Smile and smile.
Smile and smile. All right. So
Smile.
go ahead.
Okay. Smile and smile.
Okay. Greeted us greeted us with a smile. Well, no, sorry. Greeted us with a smile.
Greeted us with a smile. Uh, Greeted us with a smile.
Okay. Pachu, can you say that final part? Greeted us with a smile. With a smile. Sorry. I have a hard time being
Okay.
informal.
So greeted us with a smile.
Smile. Smile. Be serious at the end. Smile. It's low.
Is a smile.
Greet,
Smile.
greeted us with a smile.
greeted us with a smile.
Okay,
Smile.
so the waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
Can you say the whole thing, Mohammed?
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
Okay. Mohammed, how will you make a how waiter greet us question? So you have the information here. How will you make a how waiter greet us question?
Uh, how did the waiter greet us?
Okay. Uh, uh, what is the most important word in your question, do you think?
How?
Probably, yeah. So how should you say how? If that's the most important word in your question, how would you say it?
How?
How? You make it longer. Stretch it out a little bit. How did the waiter greet us?
How did the waiter greet us?
How did the waiter? Is it the waiter or the waiter?
How did the waiter greet us?
How did the waiter greet us?
How did the waiter greet us?
Okay. Can you make that question, Pachu?
Yes. So how did the waiter greet us
Okay.
with
And what is the most important word in that question, do you think?
it's a how
Okay. So
it's a
so
how
do you think it would be a good idea to say how or how?
it's a how
Yeah. So
it's a
you want to emphasize that word. How did the waiter greet us?
how the waiter greet us.
How did the how? I'm just going to
Ho-
do. I'm just going to do the vowel sounds. Okay. Ow. Ow. Ow.
How how
How did the? How did the?
how would the
How did the waiter greet us?
how would the waiter greet us?
Greet us. Greet us. Let's make e longer. How did the waiter greet us?
How do the waiter greet us? Greet us.
Muhammad, how did the waiter greet us?
How did the waiter greet us?
What is the answer?
The waiter was very cur- um, courteous.
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 Courteous. Courteous. The waiter was very courteous
The waiter was very courteous.
and greeted us with a smile.
Read, read this sentence.
Yeah, well, don't read it. Think about how to say it. And greeted us.
Yeah.
Try to do it in your head. And greeted us.
So we moved to another topic, or we stay here?
Well, let's finish the sentence and then we'll move to another topic. Okay, but try to say
Okay,
it without reading. Try to do it without reading. And greeted us
Yes.
and greeted us
with a smile.
with a smile.
And greeted us with a smile.
And greeted us with a smile.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
See, you don't have to read it. You can do it in your head. That's better if you can do it in your head, right?
Yes.
Pachu, can you try to say the whole thing? The waiter was very courteous and greeted us with a smile.
Okay. The waiter was very courteous and greeted with us smile
And greeted us with a smile.
and greeted us with a smile.
Okay. Can you read, Pachu? Can you read the next sentence that I have? This is the final one for today. Okay.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
can you read this sentence here?
Okay. So Please drive carefully for everyone's sake.
What does that mean when you say for everyone's sake?
The driver should drive his vehicle for everyone. For everyone.
Yeah, think of everyone else. Don't think of yourself. Maybe it's fun to drive like a crazy person. I've seen. I wish PP was still here because I've seen videos on YouTube that I guess in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I don't know if this is true in Egypt, but I've seen this in Saudi Arabia. I've seen YouTube videos. The young guys they like to drive their cars like crazy people in the desert. Have you seen those videos, Mohammed?
Yes, besides the camels, he race besides the camels.
Oh, I haven't seen that, but I've just seen them drive like they drive like really, really super crazy, and I guess they think it's fun. But
They have much money, much money, so they don't care.
yeah, well, you
If
see,
the car crashes, they would get another one.
yeah. So, or but the problem is maybe they could hurt other people, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So maybe what you would tell them is, okay, look, I know you're having fun. I know this is a lot of fun for you. It's a lot of fun to do that, but think about other people and drive safely. That's what that means. For everyone's sake, please drive carefully for everyone's sake. Think of other people. Don't think about yourself. Maybe you enjoy it, but think about everybody else. Do you understand what that means?
Yes,
Yeah, so it means stop thinking about yourself and think of this other thing. Okay?
I got it.
All right. So now if I say the first three words, let's do the first two words. Please drive. Please drive. What do you think is the biggest word or the biggest sound in there? Please drive. Please drive.
Drive.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is drive. Please drive. Can you say those two words together?
Please drive.
Please drive. Okay. Careful.
Please drive.
Uh huh. That's right. Please drive. Can you say that, Pachu? Please drive.
Please drive. Please drive.
Okay. What if we add the word carefully? Please drive carefully. Oh, suddenly, suddenly we have a problem. I've got to change this back. Because when we put these three words together, wait, please, okay, if I say the three words together, which is the biggest word? Please drive carefully.
Yeah, carefully.
Yeah, so
Care.
suddenly it changes when we add the word carefully. Because I wasn't thinking, but carefully, that's an adverb. And a lot of times,
Yeah,
adverbs
adverb.
are very important words. Adjectives and adverbs become very important. Please drive carefully.
Yeah, because
Because
yeah, he please drive carefully.
mhm. Please drive carefully. Carefully really is maybe that's like the superstar of the whole sentence. Please
Yes.
carefully. Can you say that again?
Please drive.
Go ahead.
Please drive carefully.
Please drive carefully. Can you say that, Mohammed?
Please drive carefully.
Carefully. Carefully.
Carefully.
Okay. Mohammed, what do you think? Let's see. For everyone's sake. For everyone's sake. What sounds like the biggest word in that phrase? For everyone's sake.
Every.
For everyone's sake.
e-
For everyone's sake.
Every.
Every. Every.
Yes.
Every. All right. I guess this is a pretty.
Every.
Every. Please drive carefully for everyone's sake. What about sake?
Please drive. Sake is short because it's the last word.
Mm. Well, oftentimes the last word could be one of the most important words in the idea. So actually,
Yes.
the last word most of the time, is really the most important word. And for everyone's sake. Well, I think they're equally big. I think that's the thing. It's not that one is bigger than the other, but they're kind of the same. For everyone's sake. Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good pattern. Okay. So we have our small big small big small big pattern. Please drive carefully for everyone's sake. Please drive carefully for everyone's sake. Can you say that, Mohammed?
Please drive carefully for everyone's sake.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you say the whole phrase, Pachu?
Please drive carefully for everyone's sake.
Okay, that's good. But I'm just going to write 2 words on the screen, okay? Let me know when you can see these 2 words that I have written here.
Yes,
Do you see them?
yes,
How do you say number 1?
yes. So is a sick,
And how do you say number 2?
the sick,
Number 1,
sick,
number 2.
sick.
Do those 2 words sound the same to you?
No,
Okay. What's the difference?
uh, first is sick, ache,
How many sounds in number 1?
is two,
What are the 2 sounds?
ae,
A. So that's like, so you say which I think is no problem for you. And then you have to pull your tongue back like a snake about to attack. Here's the top of your mouth. Here's your tongue. Sake, sake, sake,
sake,
sake,
sake,
sake.
sake,
But there are 2 sounds. You have to hear the 2 sounds. If you don't hear the 2 sounds, it sounds to me like you're saying number 2. Say number 1 again.
sake,
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 sake. So you have to pull your tongue back like a snake about to attack. Sake,
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 sake.
sake. And how do you say number 2?
Is a sick,
Sick. How,
sick,
how do you say number 1?
sake,
And how do you say
sake,
number 2?
sick, sick,
Muhammad, can you say number 1?
Sick,
Sake. And how do you say number 2?
sick, sick,
Sick, sick, sick,
sick,
sick. Say number 1 again.
sick, sick,
Sake. Number 2.
sick,
Sick, sick.
sick.
Okay. So Mohammed, what do you think? First of all, how many phrases do you think we could divide this sentence into?
2.
2? Okay, what are the 2 phrases? What is the first phrase?
Please drive carefully
Okay. What is
for uh, for everyone's sake.
okay, sick or sake?
Sake,
Sake. It's 2 sounds. E,
sake,
e, e. Sake.
sake,
Mm-hmm.
sake.
Okay. And how do you want to sound? Do you want to sound serious or do you want to sound happy and fun?
Serious.
Okay. So what do you recommend for the tones for the first phrase? What do you recommend? How would you what kind of tones would you apply to that phrase? How would you start it? Would you start high or low?
Is start high.
Okay. So
Please drive.
okay. So I'm going to make this red to indicate that this should be high. And then what's going to happen?
Please drive carefully.
So, please drive carefully. Please drive carefully.
Please drive carefully.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now, if you wanted to sound friendlier, you could put a high tone on care and say carefully. Please drive carefully. So that would sound friendlier or nicer, but the way you're saying it, it sounds serious or formal or educational. Please drive carefully.
Please drive carefully.
Pachu, can you say that? Please drive carefully.
Okay. Please drive carefully.
Okay. Pachu, what do you think about the final phrase? Would you like to make that sound educational or serious or formal? Or would you like to make it sound friendly and nice?
Yeah, it's serious.
Okay. So, what do you recommend that we do if we're talking about the tones that we're using? How can we make that sound serious? What do we have to do?
So the first sound is falling tone and another is high.
Well, it's the opposite, really, because usually an English sentence, like a neutral English phrase, would start high and then fall.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
so we want to start high, and we want to go down low. So we'll start with for everyone's sake.
For everyone's sake.
Mm-hmm. Sick or sake?
Sake. Sake.
Sake, sake. For everyone's sake.
For everyone's sake.
Please drive carefully for everyone's sake.
Please drive carefully for everyone's sake.
That was very nice. Mohammed, can you read the entire phrase?
Please drive carefully for everyone's sake.
Mm-hmm. Sick or sake?
Sake.
Sake. Sake.
Sake.
Sake. That was good.
Sake.
Sake. Sake.
Sake.
And sake. Please drive carefully for everyone's sake.
Please drive carefully for everyone's sake. Sake.
Okay. Mohammed, can you make a question? How should drive? How should drive? How would you make?
How,
Go ahead.
how should I drive
Let's say you. Let's
for
yeah, let's use you. How about you? How should say you?
how how should you drive for everyone's sakes
Mm,
sake?
For everyone's sake. For everyone's sake. Try again. Tell me. Ask again.
Uh, how should you drive for everyone's sake?
Should you? Should you? Should you? Should you?
How should you drive for everyone's sake?
What is the most important word in that phrase?
How?
So how should you say it if it's very important?
How should you drive for everyone's sake?
How should you drive? So again, we want the big, small. How should you drive?
How should you drive for everyone's sake?
How should you drive for everyone's sake? Pachu, can you make that question?
Okay. How should you drive for everyone's sake?
How sick or sake?
Sake.
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 Got to pull your tongue back when you do that.
Yes.
How should
Yes. I
for everyone's sake? hmm Go ahead.
so how 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 should she drive for everyone's sakes?
Well,
Sake.
we'll say we'll say how should you, like you in general, every person. How should every person drive? How should you drive? Should you? How should you?
How should you
How?
drive for
Yes,
everyone?
that's big, small, big. How should you drive
How should you drive
for everyone's
for,
sake?
for everyone's sake?
Okay, that was very clear. That was really good. Okay. Uh, and
Okay.
how should you drive for everyone's sake?
How should you drive for everyone's sake?
Sake. What is the answer?
Everyone should drive carefully for everyone's sake.
Mm-hmm. We can just say you. You should drive carefully for everyone's sake. We can say you. You should drive carefully for everyone's sake.
You should drive carefully for everyone's sake.
Sick or sake?
Sake.
Sake. It's two sounds. E.
Sake.
E. Pull your tongue back.
Sake.
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 Okay. Can you say, finally, Pachu, can you say that you should drive carefully for everyone's sake?
You should drive carefully for everyone's sake.
That's good. That was really good. Okay. I think you're improving, Pachu.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. We are done for today, okay?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for
Well, thank you for. I appreciate that you came and you stayed for all this time. It's a long time. So I don't think I'm going to do tomorrow morning. I think I have to rest my voice. So, but I think like I'll put on the schedule because we'll probably do the art of reading, but maybe like a little bit later. So about maybe 13 hours from now. Do you think that would be okay? Do you think that would work for you? Like so, not at
yes,
like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So that's about like maybe about 13 hours from now. So if you can join
yes.
me, then we can continue. We can do the art of reading. But I don't think I'm doing Gone with the Wind tomorrow morning. Okay.
Okay,
All
okay.
right. So
Thank you.
thank you everyone who stayed and watched, and thank you for your comments and your questions and participating. And I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Bye bye.
Okay, sir.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.